This story is about a lone adventurer who broke a taboo. A diary of certain noblemen once said, "Devouring monster is a taboo in this world. For a human to eat monsters means to take in their evil essence." The first symptom that appears upon absorbing it is a feeling of elation that cannot be expressed by mere words, accompanied by strengthening of the body. The second symptom is severe headaches, nausea, and intoxication. The third symptom is sudden death, or possibly they could turn into monsters themselves after consuming the evil essence. Frontier City, Bologna, is a territory home to multiple labyrinths. Among those labyrinths, there is one called the Miasma Labyrinth. The air inside this labyrinth chips continuously away at the status of visiting adventurers. This specific labyrinth is hated by other adventurers, but our protagonist always visits it. Before he knew it, he was getting recognized as the Miasma Scavenger. Like always, he is on another raid, exploring the labyrinth. On the 6th floor of the dungeon, he finds the miasma grass in great quantity, and this discovery seems to be a normal thing for our adventurer. The miasma grass has the effect of purifying miasma and is an irreplaceable source of income for him, though he decides to take just what he needs. After gathering enough miasma grass, he decides to leave, but on his way out he comes across a herd of miasma rats. Many of the monsters in Miasma Labyrinth use miasma or poison, contributing to the reasons why adventurers don't like raiding Miasma Labyrinth. However, that won't work against our protagonist. It takes him no effort to obliterate miasma rats. But when he is about to be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of rats, he is saved by a bunch of adventurers who appear to be a bit arrogant. Although he was helped by the arrogant adventurers, he didn't like how they used a surprise attack, which could have turned into a tragedy if he hadn't dodged it at the right time. One of those adventurers sneaks inside the room where Rude found miasma grass. This is where Rude realizes that these adventurers were following him all along because they wanted to harvest his spot. The adventurers deny the fact that they were following him and claim that they just happened to meet him there and save him. The tension in the room increases when the adventurers with a high sense of pride prepare for combat. Rude reluctantly thanks the adventurers, canceling out any potential quarrels. Sometime later, in a local restaurant called Full Belly Restaurant, the adventurer is shown to be being bullied by even more ill-mannered people. He is mocked for his inability to defeat monsters. Rude possesses a unique skill called abnormal status nullification. It's useful for exploring the miasma labyrinth, but it doesn't give him the suitable skills to defeat monsters, something vital for adventurers. As someone who didn't have any combat skills, he wasn't welcome to any party and was named the Miasma Scavenger because he always scavenged for items in the lower levels of the miasma labyrinth. In other words, with his failure of skill, he is an outcast as an adventurer. Being a grown man, he has to fight a life-or-death battle against a mere rat. He wonders if he has to keep living his life as the Miasma Scavenger. The next day, he visits the Adventurers Guild, planning to find another colony. When he looks around, he finds the room in uproar. He goes up to the receptionist to ask for any good requests. The receptionist informs him that a new labyrinth has been discovered. A new labyrinth is filled with treasures and magic items. It's a golden opportunity for any adventurer. Following this news, the receptionist also addresses the sudden price drop in the miasma herb. Rude is taken aback by this surprising receptionist's remarks. In response, the receptionist explains that the miasma labyrinth was never popular to begin with, and for the time being, since people will be going to the new labyrinth, there will be no demand for miasma herbs. She further reveals that the new labyrinth is in the Yahello Mountains, but Rudy isn't allowed to go there, because the exploration requirement of the new labyrinth is to be D rank or higher, and unfortunately, Rude is an E rank. He insists on exploring the new labyrinth, but the receptionist tells him that there's no exception to these rules, and even if he somehow makes it, he will end up dying in vain. Seeing Rude eager to go inside the new labyrinth, a man invites him to join his party as a porter. Rude is on the carriage going to the new labyrinth in the Yahello Mountains. The person that invited him to join in as a porter appears to be nice to Rude. He explains that he wanted someone to carry the materials from the new labyrinth, but couldn't get a hold of anyone. Rude understands that since all the adventurers in the guild are gathered in the new labyrinth, securing a porter is difficult. However, the party Rude was invited to isn't happy with Miasma Scavenger being their teammate, except for the probable party leader. The party leader tries to convince his party that Rude is not a newbie, he has been adventuring for a long while. He then introduces himself as Buyer, the leader of the Scarlet Sword, and a D-rank adventurer. Buyer's party comprises another 2 D-rank adventurers, Sasha and Rick, and together they are Scarlet Sword. Likewise, Rude also introduces himself but keeps it brief. Buyer asks Rude for his guild card, and Rude gives it to him. Rude is a level 7, rank E hunter, with considerably low stats, and he can use fire magic. Although he can use fire magic, the power is too low for use in battle. but it does sort of come in handy in dark places and the time when he is cooking. Bayer says that it's plenty helpful. Soon after, the party of adventurers arrives at the recently discovered Yahello labyrinth. Seeing the empty entrance, the adventurers assume that they are the first ones to arrive. However, that's not entirely true, as the labyrinth is already crowded. Most adventurers have already gotten their hands on the treasure and special magic items. Our adventurers appear to be frustrated after seeing the adventurers everywhere, especially Sasha, who couldn't bear it. Rick suggests they should dive deeper. There would be fewer people further down the labyrinth. Rude shares his opinion on the matter and says that it's better if they start with mapping the first layer. However, Sasha and Rick don't like seeing Rude, an average E-ranker, giving out his opinions. They even badmouth him. But Bayer calms the situation down. Bayer says that here he agrees with Sasha and Rick because if things go on like this, they won't get any good results. Since the party leader decides for everyone, Bayer decides to go even deeper. Soon enough, our adventurers arrive on the fourth layer of Yahello labyrinth, and proportionate to the layer of the labyrinth, the difficulty also increases. This is where they are attacked by aggressive beast-type monsters, though. It's only Rude that struggles to even land a hit. In a critical moment, he is saved by Rick. Astonished by the strength of Rick, Rude further looks around and sees Bayer and Sasha overpowering the monsters too. In no time, the adventurers take care of everything. The fourth layer of Yahello's labyrinth doesn't have any other parties around, and the adventurers are glad about that. Despite the labyrinth levels, the monsters aren't that strong. Luckily, they also found some treasure. Rick, being bossy, orders Rude, the lowest-ranked adventurer in the room, to collect the materials from the monsters. Rude refuses to collect the materials because the monsters he is supposed to collect materials from are very damaged. Moreover, Rude concludes that the magic stones most probably are also shattered as well. Rick isn't too pleased with Rude's response. He asks him to not slack off and do his duties. Rude is very used to dealing with people with that kind of demeanor. Even though he is humiliated, he stays composed and agrees to perform his duties as a porter. Although he swallowed the humiliation, he isn't very satisfied with the visuals of the monsters' corpses. Everything is all mangled, the guts and blood smell awful, and the level of damage dealt to these corpses is not normal. To find an easy solution, Rude attempts to burn the monster's corpse. Rick sees this and presumes that Rude must be cooking it. Since they have been exploring the fourth layer of the Yahello labyrinth, Rick remarks that he is hungry, and even the monster meat is starting to look delicious to him. Sasha tells him to not say that, even if he is joking, because it's taboo among adventurers to eat monsters. There is no knowing what would happen if someone tried to consume the monster. The mana is absorbed into the bodies. Rick replies that he was just joking. He intends to eat tons of delicious food with the money he has earned. Out of the blue, the ground starts shaking, and fear strikes everyone standing there. When the shaking slows down, a B-rank monster, a minotaur, makes a dramatic entrance. After beating numberless monsters, the adventurers wonder why a B-rank monster is on the fourth layer of the Yahello labyrinth. Scarlet Sword is convinced that they can't beat a B-rank monster by themselves. In a moment of panic, Bayer asks Rude for his backpack and tells him to keep an eye on the movement of the Minotaur. Minotaur isn't a regular monster that can be easily defeated. Even though he is anxious, Rude waits for Bayer's call. Standing beside Rude, Bayer takes out his sword and abruptly lands a grave wound on him. He does it while having a big grin on his. As he commits this atrocity, he says that it's his great plan. Following the fall of Rude, Bayer calls his party mates for a quick escape. To make matters worse, Rick uses his unique skill, the Warrior's Engagement, which makes the target the focus of the monster's attack. To make it even worse, Sasha uses her skill Haste, which doubles the target's speed. Rude realizes that he has been done dirty. Scarlet Sword adventurers were planning to abandon him from the start, and even Bayer himself tells him that there is nothing special about Miasma Scavenger. So why else would they bring him otherwise? The three adventurers waste no time to make a run for it. Rude has been betrayed once again. He doesn't even have the energy to fight for his survival. In the meantime, the rest of his life flashed before his eyes. Miraculously, he manages to dodge its attack but soon realizes that the miracle won't reoccur. This is the end for him. The monster quickly closes the distance and smashes Rude through the platform. Practically unconscious, Rude wonders if he is alive. He gives a sidelong glance to the ground beneath him and realizes that the Minotaur got caught underneath him. But it's only a matter of time for him too. Even if no other monsters come, he will probably die from blood loss or starvation before his body heals. Since he is starving, he begins to hallucinate and is even tempted to eat the monster. A flashback shows Rude being advised by a man to not give up, no matter how hard or painful the life gets. Recalling those words fueled his desire to live. He mindlessly starts biting the monster's flesh. If a human who has depleted their magic were to eat mana-rich monster meat, the monster's mana particles would invade their body. Monsterized state. It's a terrifying fate, worse than even dying due to ingesting poison. That's why it's a taboo. To regain the blood he has lost and sate his hunger, Rude makes a gamble, bringing about an unexpected transformation. He waited for the miracles, but the miracles never arrived. Even though he is not completely right in mind, he can stand tall on his feet. His eyes are burning with the desire to live and are fueled by hatred and vengeance. When a swarm of monsters spots him, they begin to surround him. Rude, who has now become a savage, uses an alien skill called Roar, which originally belonged to the Minotaur. When the skill Roar isn't enough, Rude uses the skill Physical Boost, which temporarily enhances the target's physical strength. After obtaining the Minotaur-like strength, Rude continues to fight the Bat-type monsters. And even though this is not surprising anymore, he devours the monsters like there's no tomorrow. Rude obtaining skills, Roar and Physical Boost, wasn't just a fluke, as he also receives the bat's special skill Echolocations, which detects surrounding creatures and is effective even in darkness. Soon after, he sees more monsters coming in swarm. At this point, both Rude and the monsters are rushing toward each other. Only one side will be subject to the title, the ultimate apex predator. Rude has become a ruthless monster slayer. He isn't afraid of the monsters anymore. The only thing that has passed on from his old self to his new self is the will to live. He can sense the monster's magic without even having to take a look at them. Moreover, the battle axe he is using perfectly fits in his hand. His transition from shivering in fear to swinging his axe with a smile is a testament to his growth both as an adventurer and also as a monster. Every time he devours a monster, he feels power surging through his blood. After some time, he manages to make it out of the new labyrinth. Elsewhere, Scarlet Sword is submitting their mission report to the Bologna Branch Guild Master Lankars. He tells Scarlet Sword that he has rounded up every adventurer who was in the labyrinth except for Rude, who was with them. Bayer, being a snake, lies and comes up with a fake story to cover for himself and the party. He explains that the moment they encountered the Minotaur on the 4th floor, Rude was killed before they even had the chance to protect him. Lankars remarks, understanding the situation, and is going to prohibit entry into that labyrinth for quite some time. The receptionist seems to be saddened by the loss of Rude. However, her expression quickly changes when she sees him entering through the entrance of the guild. Everyone is stunned to see him alive, especially the people who betrayed him. Bayer wears his innocent, caring brother role in front of everyone and is the first one to ask Rude if he is okay. After everything, he whispers in Rude's ear to not say something unnecessary, if he wants to live. The other party members also come to play their part in the act and ask Rude if he is okay. Bayer says that they should celebrate Rude's survival, but not in a place like this. Intending to take him outside where they will be doing their shenanigans, they try to force him out, but surprisingly can't move him with brute force. In front of the Bologna Guild adventurers and guildmaster, Rude unveils that he was used as a pawn by Scarlet Sword. Lankars asks Rude what he means by being used as a pawn. He demands an explanation. Rude explains that Bayer stole his supplies and attacked him from behind. Rick used a skill to lure the Minotaur toward him, and then Sasha cast haste on them all so those three could run away. Bayer denies everything in front of Lankars. He says that he didn't do any of that. To settle this matter, Lankars has a way to clarify the truth of the matter and summons the Truth Officer. Seeing the Truth Officer, who rarely leaves the capital at the Bologna Branch Guild, Scarlet Sword starts to panic. Lankars explains that because there has been an unusually high number of deaths among porters temporarily joining the Scarlet Sword, he called in an old favor to bring Truth Officer. He asks the Truth Officer to reveal who is out of Bayer's party, and Rude is speaking the truth. The Truth Officer removes the cloth that was covering her mouth and remarks that the members of Scarlet Sword are lying. Rude's claim is the truth. Instead of accepting the Truth Officer's remarks, Bayer resists and says that the Truth Officer's word couldn't be believed. Lankarsi explains that skills like Truth Skill are impossible to acquire later in life. Its effectiveness rivals that of a unique skill. No lie can pass before the Truth Skill. And what could be more trustworthy than the words of someone who had pledged to dedicate that power to a country? Abandoning your comrades is an adventurer's taboo. Lankars appears to be aware of the fact that Scarlet Sword has intentionally injured their comrades and used them as disposable pawns previously. If they were to be thoroughly investigated, all three adventurers would certainly have their adventurer qualifications revoked, and they all would be reduced to slavery. Bayer hates the thought of working as a slave. He blames the Truth Officer for being there, something that is extremely rare. He rushes at the Truth Officer and aims his sword at her, but Rude steps in at the right time and blocks Bayer's attempt. Rude tells him to not touch the Truth Officer, and following this comment, he punches him in the face, smashing him through the wall on the far side of the room. He told Bayer to stop because it was no good. After this, Rude discusses Scarlet Sword's situation with Lankars and the receptionist girl. Rude is informed that the three adventurers will be taken in by the staff and will undergo a proper interrogation. If it is confirmed that they are repeat offenders who use their porters as bait, The members of the Scarlet Sword will lose all their possessions and adventurer qualifications and will be reduced to slavery. But Bayer went as far as to cross the truth officers. He probably won't appear before Rude ever again. They lost the rights of the profits gained in the new labyrinth. Lankar says that in this case, Rude should be the one to receive it rightfully, and then surprises him with a leather pouch that has 20,000 Regan inside it. Initially perplexed, he begins to show excitement when he thinks about how he could cover his living expenses with this money. Under normal circumstances, it would take him a while to accumulate such an amount by diligently gathering miasma grass. He notices the people around him aren't insulting him, and that may be because they saw him earlier, entangled in Bayer's situation. Still, he knows that the people who normally insult him won't be kind to him either. He thinks that if he continues to stand out, there may be those who might find his sudden rise in status suspicious. So he decides to proceed with harvesting the miasma labyrinth like before. Now that he has got some money, he thinks of getting the gear and eating whatever he wants. As soon as he gets out of the guild, he heads to a tool shop where he spots a magic bag on the display for sale. He appears to be touched by the bag, and after purchasing it, he chooses to eat something next. The next day, Rude continues to scavenge in the miasma labyrinth. The monster that he was struggling against the other day can now be defeated without much of a hassle. He uses appraisal, a skill to view his target's status. The miasma rat is a level 9 monster that has a relatively high HP and agility. The skill he obtained after eating monsters can even be used on corpses. After checking out the miasma rat's status, he is curious about his status. He wonders how much has he improved, and makes a rough estimate that he must be level 20 because killing the rat was easy. He opens his status and grasps that everything has changed since the last time, and he is now level 42 with 188 health points, 156 strength, 136 endurance, 136 magic points, 112 spirit, and 125 agility. Astonished by an unprecedented growth in his level, he checks the skills he acquired and finds out that he possesses a great number of skills. Earlier he passed by the path where he fell on the way back from the new labyrinth. The wall that should have been broken was sealed. The new labyrinth will remain closed for a while, so he planned to explore the miasma labyrinth. Rude wants to test his new power out. He wants to see how effective it is on the deeper floors. He also wishes to study the effectiveness of the bag he bought earlier from a local tool shop. For that, he needs to choose the right monster for his first try. Rude continues to dive into the deeper floor, from slaying miasma rats and toad-type monsters on the 6th floor to effortlessly cutting spiders on the 13th floor. However, he still isn't clicking with the monster spawning on those floors, and wants something challenging to test out his new skills on. He gradually makes it to the 24th floor, where he sees a single lizard soldier, a level 25 monster that normally coordinates with their companions and fights as a group. He thinks that if it's a lizard soldier, it might be worth a try to test out the thing he bought earlier. Rude sneaks up behind the monster but barely manages to leave a wound on its arm. Instead of retaliating, the lizard soldier attempts to escape. Soon, the narrow alleyway the monster was running towards led to a dead end. But somehow Rude is the one who gets the feeling as if he is going to be the one who's going to be hunted. He soon realizes that he has fallen into the monster's trap. Rude has been set up, and even though he may have an advantage with the level, he is in a bad situation. He is getting overwhelmed by the number. With no other more efficient plan, Rude decides to go all out and take the monsters one by one. He proves to be several times stronger than the lizard soldier, but his advances are made redundant by the remarkable teamwork of the monsters. Just when he is about to slay one of the soldiers, another soldier jumps in with a shield and covers his kind. The surprise is followed by a sneak attack from behind, but Rude once again dodges it. He wonders how many of the monsters are there. Rude isn't shocked by the fact that these monsters are good at working with each other. He is taken aback by their tremendous use of ambush tactics and the degree of coordinating their movements. Rude noticed that just before the monsters showed their amazing coordination, there was a high-pitched sound. It was from the General Lizard, operating from the back. He uses his appraisal skill to check out the monster's stat, and finds out that General Lizard is a level 32 threat who outstands with his one-handed swordsmanship and command ability. He perceives that the General Lizard is the boss. General Lizard once again commands his soldier to attack, using his high-pitched sound. In response, Rude activates his physical boost skill to counterattack. Instead of fighting the soldiers, Rude leaps into the air and attacks the general with his sword. However, despite being lower in level, General Lizard is unscathed. The monster immediately retaliates by aiming his sword at Rude. Rude is in a position where he can't dodge it. Then all of a sudden he activates his skill Steel Body, which he acquired from the spiders. Rude is sure that he felt the impact from his previous attack, but for some reason, there are no scratches on the body of the General Lizard. What's surprising is that the General doesn't possess a skill that enhances his durability. He guesses that it may be borrowed from someone else, though there aren't any particular skills that stand out. Rude pays close attention to the soldier standing behind the general, and sees the open wound on its upper body. The place of that wound reveals that Soldier Lizard was taking the damage instead. The feat to do this requires the substitute skill, and that lizard happens to have it. Rude sets its eyes on the substitute lizard and kills him in an instant before it can even react. Seeing his ghouls die, General jumps at Rude, though he seems to be already prepared for such scenarios. Rude activates thread manipulation, a spider native skill, and uses the silk thread to climb up. When the lizards gather around, hoping to catch Rude, he manipulates and casts the thread like a net to catch everyone. Since the monsters are now unable to move, he calls it his victory. Rude wastes no time in beheading the general. Now it's time for Rude to eat the lizards. He also thinks of using the bag he purchased with the money he got from the guild. The space inside the bag is expanded by magic, and the weight is completely reduced when it's closed. He takes out the utensils and seasonings for proper cooking this time. When he was on the hidden floor, he was just desperate to survive. Trying out some properly cooked meat was what he always wanted to try. Now it's time he eats something good. He chops the meat into slices and cooks those pieces in a frying pan. Before trying out the meat, he imagines how delicious it may be now that it's cooked, and soon takes the first bite to realize how heavenly and delicious the properly tended meat is. He believes that he might get addicted to the monster meat, because he never thought it would be good to that extent. While eating, Rude notices that he has got new skills. He once again regresses to the question, how can the monster meat be so good? He assumes that it could be related to the magical powers that monsters possess. The skills from the Minotaur Armor Spider and Evil Eye have been quite helpful. As for the monsters whose skills he hasn't tried yet, there's the Thunderwolf and the Black Serpent. Now all excited after consuming some exquisite monster meat, Rude decides that on his way back he is going to try eating more of a variety of monsters. When speaking of skills, he remembers that the lizard with the substitute skill was also there. After this, he dives into the 21st floor and continues his hunt. When fighting the monsters, he demonstrates a variety of different skills, including the Lightning Cloak, the one he acquired from the wolves. The monster swarm he just defeated was a pair of monsters specializing in inflicting status ailments. Moving on, he has the frog meat and insect dishes. It's time for him to feast on them. He uses those ingredients in cooking fried chicken. It turns out to be so good that he craves a beer combo with it. Just by taking a bite, Rude also acquires a set of some new skills: venom, temperature variation, poison scale powder, paralysis scale powder, and aerial slash. While feasting on the tender frog meat, he hears a crashing sound followed by a human voice. He wonders if any other adventurers have made it this far in the labyrinth besides him. He quickly packs everything in his magic bag and rushes to investigate the cause. It's rare to find other parties in combat. He fancies exchanging the information with them, that is, if he finds them. Elsewhere, on the same floor of the Miasma Labyrinth, a party of adventurers has severely wounded a woman. It appears that the adventurers had a hard time battling the woman. One of the adventurers implies that the woman used magic to defend herself, and her use was in excess. The adventurer leading the party removes the hood of the woman's robe, and the woman is revealed to be an elf. While thinking about how much an elf woman would sell for, the adventurers hear Rude's voice from behind. As he is making a cold entry, he remarks that he was hoping for some friends, but it doesn't seem like these people would be that easily gullible. He comes out of the dark and says that he doesn't know their story, but he can't just stand idly by and watch a woman being attacked. The leader of the vicious adventurers party asks for Rude's introduction. The elf tells Rude to get out while he can, because the guys he is up against are adventurer hunters. Rude realizes that he has heard about these adventurers before him. They are all high-ranking adventurers. Rude can see through the adventurers' levels, but it's only levels that he can view. Status and skills aren't viewable. The leader of the party, Falzas, is a level 65 adventurer. Shocked by something quite strange, he contemplates if the adventurers have some kind of concealment skill or counter-magic tool. Falzas orders his companions to take Rude down. His party members were eager to attack Rude. They were impatiently waiting for his order. The first person to attack Rude is a psychopathic guy with his tongue out. Despite his shabby appearance, he is agile with great stamina. The psychopath applauds Rude for standing strong, and Rude tells him that it is because his opponent is weak, simply mocking the guy. The crazy adventurer is enraged by Rudy's funny comment and says that he is not weak and is going to prove it by smashing Rude's skull. Rude emotionally overpowers his opponent when he gets too close to Rude. He cleverly blocks the attack and immediately spits out venom through his mouth, using the skill Venom. Zarius, the psychopath, screams as his face begins to melt. The adventurers opposing Rude are taken aback seeing Rude spitting out venom. They conclude that he has become a monster. Rude himself knows that his way of fighting is reckless. It's completely unlike how a typical adventurer fights. But thorough, this is how a weak person like him has survived inside labyrinths. Falzas wonders if the poison used by Rude is a unique skill. He becomes wary of Rude and believes that he must not be underestimated. He tells his two other companions to charge together with him, and the three of them jump at Rude all at once. Rude does an incredible job of dodging the enemy attacks though. He understands that if he stops for even a second, he will get killed. Soon it is disclosed that Falzas is too quick for him, as Falzas kicks him in the face. However, at the right moment, Rudy activates the skill Steel Body, which protects him from not being hurt. Although Rude may have saved and absorbed the hit, the impact isn't completely sucked up, as he slips into a swamp. Falzas, being the strongest in his party, is sure that his hit could have broken Rude's neck. If he is still standing on his feet, then that means Rude is a tough warrior. One of the adventurers tells Rude that he is going to snuff out his life. However, instead of resuming the fight, Rude starts running in the opposite direction. Exasperated, the adventurer shouts at Rude to not start running now. With only revenge on his mind, the adventurer tries to follow Rude, but is stopped by Falzas, who reveals that the swamp is poisonous. It isn't guaranteed that someone would come alive after going any deeper into it. Falzas convinces his comrade to wait for Rude to come out of the swamp because there's no way he would be able to withstand the poisonous swamp either. Rude is frustrated. He wonders how long the adventurers are planning to stay near the poisonous swamp. He thinks he was lucky to have fallen into a poisonous swamp, on top of the usual miasma. The poisonous vapors around the swamp will also rapidly drain the adventurer's stamina. Soon after, this is proven to be accurate, as the adventurers are already drained of energy in about 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Rude is waiting for the adversaries to weaken, though he is well aware that if he takes any longer than this, it will become an even bigger burden on the elf since she's injured. Rude starts to take slow steps toward Falzas and the remaining adventurers. He asks them how they feel being affected by both poison and miasma. Falzas and his companion remark that Rude has caused them a lot of trouble, believing that Rude might also be out of stamina. Rude says that he is unaffected by any status abnormalities, so he doesn't know how much pain they all are feeling. Falzas feels tricked. He is surprised to see a nobody like Rude possessing the abnormal status nullification skill. Enraged, he orders his comrades to attack, and soon the fight resumes once again. However, the adventurers aren't able to keep up with Rude, due to the miasma accumulation inside their bodies which lowers their stats. Even their attempt to surprise attack Rude fails when he activates skill Steel Body to harden his body and then enables the skill Lightning Cloak. The effects of direct exposure to Lightning Cloak scorches them, though one adventurer still tries to fight back in the last-ditch effort. Rude uses the skill Aerial Slash as the finishing move to put everything to an end. The sheer amount of attacks pulled off by Rude has Falzas stunned. He asks Rude why in the world a human like him has a monster's skills. Rude replies that he has no obligation to tell Falzas. The fight between the adventurer's leader Falzas and the miasma scavenger begins. Falzas believes that even though he should be completely superior when it comes to fighting against humans, he is at a disadvantage because of the miasma. In a critical moment, Falzas uses the skill of Agility Enhancement and obtains a great extent of agile movement. In response, Rudy activates a physical boost and proves that power beats speed. The Force gets the job done. The level 65 Falzas is defeated by Miasma Scavenger. Rude acknowledges that if it weren't for the abnormal statuses, Falzas was just too clear of him. The elf woman shows gratitude to Rude, her savior. In response, he says that he couldn't have left her in that miserable situation. The elf tries to act brave, even though her body is still affected by the miasma. At the end of the day, he tries to find the reasoning behind seeing an elf in such a remote area, and what kind of circumstances she has to be chased by the adventurer hunters. The surprises never cease to come, as they are ambushed by a giant moth, a level 37 monster with pretty normal difficulty. Rude slays the monster while commenting that it can't win against him just by being big. He uses Aerial Slash, though he isn't able to finish it because of the unprecedented jump scare from the monster. The debris of the collision nearly hits the elf woman, but she luckily manages to prevent any injury from happening. Rude uses skill Aerial Slash, and this time, it deals great damage on the giant moth. However, the monster quickly recovers and attempts to use paralyzing scales on Rude, and the reign of the paralyzing scales begins. Confident, he tells the monster that paralysis doesn't work on him and overlooks the fact that the elf woman is also there, who may be an elf but doesn't possess any extraordinary powers or resistance. However, the elf woman seems to be prepared, as she uses wind magic to divert the direction of scales, shocking Rude. Soon, Rude manages to slay the monster. The elf woman, mesmerized by Rudy's skill, asks him how wonder paralysis doesn't work on him. Moreover, she asks him why his skills are like a monster's. While he wonders how is he going to answer her, the elf woman falls on her knees. Concerned about her health, he asks her if she was hit by a paralyzing scale. She replies that it wasn't a paralyzing scale. This is something completely different. She will tell him her story when they get out of there. Resting under a heavenly tree, indulging in the beauty of nature, the elf woman feels much better. She introduces herself as Alicia, a former adventurer. Shocked, Rude asks her if she by any chance is the Alicia of the Emerald Storm. Azure Tales is a renowned S-rank party from the kingdom of Ludius, and the girl sitting beside him happens to be a former member. However, he recalls hearing about the defeat of Azure Tales 5 years ago. On that day, Azure Tales challenged the monster dwelling in the deepest part of the S-rank labyrinth, the Abyssal Labyrinth. In that battle, Azure Tales practically lost everything. The party leader died, one adventurer had to retire due to severe injuries, and another one was swallowed by the labyrinth. Alicia reveals that even she didn't come out unscathed. She attempts to show him a mark of some kind of curse to Rude, but he gets flustered and asks her what she is trying to do. Alicia shows him the curse engraved on her chest. She explains that it's the curse of leveling her strength down. She tried every possible method to break it, but all she could do was slow its progression. She says that she doesn't even know what she is cursed with. The adventurer party from earlier knew about her curse and wanted to benefit from it. As Alicia speaks about how she would die once her level reaches 0, she starts to get a slightly bit emotional. After hearing her heart-wrenching story, Rude suddenly realizes that he might be of some help. After this, he takes out a skill substitute card that allows him to select a target and says that he wants to try something. He asks Alicia if she can take on the skill that he is about to activate, and the elf agrees to cooperate. Soon the process of extracting Alicia's curse begins. Rude places his right hand on her shoulder and activates skill substitute. She notices that her curse is transferring to him, something she didn't expect. Alicia tries to stop him, but he reassures her that everything is okay, and asks for her trust. Soon, another one of his skills, abnormal status nullification, is automatically activated. The manifestation of Alicia's curse begins to disappear. The process ends without any kind of issues, and the curse on her is successfully removed. Rude himself is quite satisfied with how well his skills worked out. Since Alicia has never seen a human using monster skills, she asks what was just now. Rude asks Alicia to check her guild card, and when she takes a look at her status, it turns out to be normal. He explains that his unique skill is abnormal status nullification. He tried it on her because he believed it might be able to nullify her curse. She calls him an idiot for taking such immense risks, but dearly appreciates him for helping her, someone he just met. Rude and Alicia are having dinner at the Full Belly restaurant. Alicia is enjoying the food and the quality of the alcohol. She gives kudos to Rude for discovering such a good place. However, he doesn't know how to respond to her because they got kicked out last time. Seeing her drinking too much alcohol, he asks her if she's okay with drinking that much because she was badly injured just a moment ago. She says that she has recovered. And besides, on an auspicious day, such as this one, how could one not drink? Not long after, Rude asks Alicia what she plans to do from now on. She reveals that she doesn't have a solid destination that she could go to, and wishes to know more about Rude. And why did he decide to become an adventurer? Long ago, the village he lived in was attacked by monsters. He lost his family, friends, and people he was acquainted with. But thanks to an S-rank adventurer who rushed over to the scene, he was able to survive. That's something he will never forget. He wanted to become an S-rank adventurer like his savior, hoping that he could save a lot of people. Alicia says that it's a nice goal to have because that's something she also dreamed of reaching. She intends to gain more than she had before she was cursed. Moreover, she is certain that her companions are still trapped in the deepest part of the Abyssal Labyrinth. Whatever the outcome may be, she wants to challenge that horrific monster once again. Alicia offers a deal of joining forces until they both gain enough strength to achieve their goals. She suggests they form a party together and reaches out to Rude to make this official. When Rude is about to decline her proposal, a group of thugs catch Alicia from her wrist and make fun of Rude for drinking with a beautiful girl. They are the same people who called him trash and bullied him in this same restaurant before he was deceived by Scarlet Sword. They approach Alicia offering her a drink, but Rudy tells them to let her go. This angers them, and one of the bullies grabs Rude from the collar. Before the conflict intensifies, she stops them both. She suggests, since they are in a pub, they should settle it by seeing who can drink the most. Even though she suggested that Rude and the bullies should settle it with a drinking contest, she takes part in it instead of Rude. When the night falls, their friendly contest ends with Alicia coming out as the triumphant one, though she is also high as hell. Rude compliments Alicia, telling her that she did great because she had already drunk quite a lot before the drinking contest. She speaks up that she hasn't fallen so low that she would sit still. She remarks that as her speech slurs. Not long after that, she passes out. Rude uses the skill substitute to transfer her drunkenness to himself, allowing her to be sober again. Engrossed by Rude's substantial number of unique skills, she says that they must form a party together, and once again begins drinking. After liquoring up, Alicia stares at the special dish of the Full Belly restaurant, a salt-grilled barnama, though she seems to be already aware that she can't try it. The manager explains that a monster has taken up residence in the Barnama's fishing grounds. He has notified the guild, but it appears that none of the top adventurers are currently available. The manager asks them if they would like to take on the request. Soon after, our adventurers travel to the Barnabas fishing grounds, a place that is in complete harmony with nature. Both Rude and Alicia are excited to be in such a visually striking place. Their luck meets no end, as they are immediately attacked by the monsters they come to hunt. However, what they called the luck soon turned into a nightmare. They are surrounded by an unfathomable number of monsters. The monsters they are facing are known as Gurnib. It is a level 23 with stats proportional to its level. The monsters attack by spitting out water with great applied pressure. The monsters are not just a few. The number of water bullets he is fighting against is too many. He can't avoid all those attacks if he is using the boat as a foothold. He jumps out of the boat and dives into the water. He does it to grab the Gurnib's attention. When every monster that was targeting the boat saw an even easier prey, they prioritized eating Rude. When the monsters get closer, he activates Lightning Cloak to electrocute the monsters. Rude's special attack allows him to defeat a majority of the Gurnibes. However, some Gurnibes are too deep underwater and do not attack him in the first wave. He tries to decipher the meaning behind the puzzling situation. Before he dives in deeper, he informs Alicia about what he is going to do and also tells her that he needs her help with something. Shortly after, he ties the rope around his waist and dives in. Soon he reaches the point where a swarm of Gurnib monsters are lurking around aimlessly. He is surprised when none of the monsters attack him. Through logical and critical thinking, he realizes that the monsters behave oddly, like they are protecting someone, or maybe something. Regardless of what he observed, he continued to descend deeper. Suddenly he notices something with a lot of tentacles. Because of the blurry vision, he isn't able to see anything clearly. He uses the appraisal to see the newly discovered monster's stats. The hermit crab-like thing Rude is seeing happens to be a level 38 monster named Tentacles, with relatively high health points, multiple times higher than its natural agility. Rude witnesses the monster Tentacles giving birth to Gurnib with its tentacles. As soon as the Gurnib are out of the pockets, they become fierce. If Rudy doesn't defeat the Tentacles, there's no point in continuously killing the Gurnib. Since the monster isn't showing any sign of attacking, he decides to make some preparations first. However, what he initially assumed was the case wasn't precisely the case, as the monster which is supposed to be protected by the Gurnib is attacking Rude all of a sudden. Moreover, Gurnibs are also not relenting down. The reason Gurnibs weren't attacking him earlier was because they were trying to take his attention off of the feeler. Rude uses Lightning Cloak to avoid being eaten by the Gurnibs. Since the monster has wrapped its arms around Rude and he seems to be embracing that moment, he tries using Lightning Cloak again to locate the monster's vulnerabilities. However, the giant monster cuts off its feelers before it gets electrocuted. Stunned, he remembers seeing the autotomy skill. Since it immediately cut off its feelers as soon as it was struck by the lightning, it managed to avoid a fatal injury. Soon the position changes from Rude spectating the monster to the monster jumping over him. When he is about to run out of breath, he signals Alicia to pull the rope. Alicia uses her wand and pours some of her magic onto the rope to push it efficiently, leaving the monster devastated. Now lying down on the bank of the Barnabas fishing grounds, he is reducing stress by staying in a nonchalant position. When Alicia asks him if he is okay, Rude says that he is doing okay, all thanks to her efforts. After recuperating, Rude informs her about a boss deep underwater continuously producing Gurnibes. Moreover, the boss uses the accelerated healing skill, so he can't waste any more time. Alicia says that the monsters have a huge advantage over them in the water, so her magic won't work down there either. She asks him if he has a second plan. He speaks about a way, but quickly stops and reflects on the time he spent in the miasma labyrinth, eating monsters for the first time. Since Alicia told him about her curse and even formed a party with him, he thinks that he is also obligated to share his secrets with her, and that must be done before she replies. He asks Alicia to not tell anyone about what he is about to show her. Before long, he dives into the water with a new skill, high-speed swimming, enabling him to kill several Gurnibes in a single swing seamlessly. After outmaneuvering Gurnibes, he sets his eyes on the giant monster. The monster tries attacking him with its feelers, but Rude is too fast to be even bothered. He finds the weak point of the monster and wastes no time in penetrating his sword into its face. To top it off, he uses Lightning Cloak. The giant monster has departed this life. The blood is gushing out of its body. With this, the fishing grounds should return to their peaceful state. However, the problem is Alicia. She saw him devouring a monster. He wonders how is she feeling after seeing something not very human-like, and what she will say when he goes back. Rude comes out of the Barnabas River, hoping to see Alicia waiting for him. When he looks around and doesn't find her anywhere around, he wonders why he even assumed she would still be there. However, as soon as he gets out of the water, Rude is welcomed by her. Alicia reveals that she just can't sit still while waiting, so she starts gathering some branches for the campfire, because it is going to help them dry their clothes, especially Rude. Seeing Alicia in her usual demeanor, he asks her if she is okay after seeing him doing a taboo. Alicia replies that it did surprise her quite a bit. However, he trusted her enough to reveal his secret. That is enough to make her happy. Rude thanks Alicia for being generous. He remembers that he cut a part off the boss, to get its skill as well. Since he thought it would be strange if only he ate, he brought some Barnabas. Even if it might be weird to eat it next to a monster, he wants to give it to her, and she gladly accepts it. Rude says that while they eat, he is going to tell her about the first time he ate a monster. When he explains everything, Alicia says that it's still surprising how Rude can eat monsters. He says that it's thanks to that misfortune event, that a destined weakling like him got a step closer to his dream. She also thinks that the monster's taste must be quite delicious if it's cooked in the same way he does it. Rude is enjoying gurnaib fillets and miso braised tentacles. He agrees to what she just said. Rude says that he doesn't want to eat gurnaib anymore, but wants to try cooking it properly. He asks Alicia if she would like to try. Alicia humbly declines it and says that there's no guarantee she will survive with the same symptoms. She finishes her food and then properly invites him to join her party. Rude asks her if she doesn't have other stronger acquaintances to form a party with. After all, she was a famous adventurer. She explains that it's been 5 years since she got cursed, even if they, the people she was acquainted with, didn't die in the labyrinth. Considering the human lifespan, many might have retired already. Moreover, most active adventurers on the front lines have quite a few screws loose. No matter how strong they are, she thinks she can't trust them to watch her back. For adventuring together, she is looking for someone who she can trust completely. She believes that if it's Rude, she could do it. After hearing her out, he agrees to form a party with her. Soon enough, the adventurers make it back to the Adventurers Guild. Alicia appears to be overexcited thinking about her first job with Rude as a party. However, Rude being an E rank, doubts they will get any big requests. She agrees with what Rude has mentioned but seems to be calm and has a plan to solve that issue. She goes to the receptionist for registration of their newly formed party. Since the process requires showing the adventurer card, she shows it to the receptionist. The receptionist is amazed after learning that the adventurer girl before her is an S rank, the infamous Alicia of the Emerald Stone, and her reaction is twice as hilarious as Rude's. Alicia is a level 43 adventurer with high magic and spirit points, and she has a ton-load of unique skills that the receptionist has never seen before. On the other hand, Miasma Scavenger is a reputed low-ranker who doesn't have anything special to stand out. The receptionist doesn't understand why Alicia is forming a party with Rude. Alicia says that she also likes to rank up Rudy and asks the receptionist what missing points he has. The receptionist checks out his documents and reveals that he has gathered enough achievements, but the battle record is lacking. Since he is very close to ranking up, Alicia requests the highest difficulty subjugation request that she and Rude can take on together. The receptionist reveals that it should be around Barona. The adventurers accept it and soon go out to take on the request, the extermination of a pack of gray wolves. Gray wolves are level 11 monsters with a natural scent detection skill. To take on these monsters, Rude uses his stealth skill. When his position is exposed, the alpha calls in reinforcement. Since he is dealing with a pack of wolves himself, he leaves the reinforcements to Alicia. Alicia deploys her spirit magic and summons Sylph named Sylphide, a type of elemental that is known for their agility and affinity with wind. Alicia commands her to use Great Wind and slice through the enemies. Sylph gets to work and soon kills every wolf in the range that was called in as reinforcement. Rude spectated the synergy between Alicia and her elemental Sylph. He noticed how tremendous it was, and there's no way one would be able to dodge that. When she remarks that her original power before getting cursed won't come out, he speculates how terrifying it would have been at her full strength. Just when he thought he had dealt with the pack of wolves, another pack of monsters jumped him. He is cornered to the point where he can't properly block or dodge it. Alicia's Sylph comes in clutch and rescues Rude. He discovers Alicia and Sylph's unique ability to use wind-based magic, which allows them to levitate in the air and enhances mobility. Rude thanks Alicia for saving him, but she tells him that if he is thankful, he should thank the spirit instead. She believes that they still can't let their guard down, and claims she saw about 5 more wolves watching them from the bushes. There are likely more of them hiding in there. Rude uses echolocation and discovers about 30 of them hiding in the bushes. He informs Alicia to attack where he tells her to. Alicia follows his lead and uses her magical spell to exterminate the monsters hiding in the bushes. Rude is aware that the skill of echolocation loses precision in open spaces, and even Alicia can't target too many spots at once accurately. But if they attack from the sides, they can herd the gray wolves into one place. This was Rude's plan, and Alicia has done her part in this mission. She leaves the rest up to Rude. Meanwhile, Rude stealthily manages to get closer to the monsters and uses paralyzing breath to paralyze the wolves from behind. The duo finally lowers their defenses and catch a breath. Afterward, they accumulate a total of 52 dead bodies of the wolves. Alicia says that she has never encountered so many wolves in one day, and guesses that their number must have reached that much. Rude asks her about the magic spirit she used earlier. She reveals she can use magic by powering power from the spirits that exist in nature. Spirits are generally everywhere, even though they don't show themselves. But to use their power, one needs to offer magic as compensation. Even so, you can cast powerful magic with little magic energy, and what he saw earlier was the epitome of it. Sylphide can render phenomena such as floating in the air. Rude admits that he has never heard of wind magic that strong before. While he is sharing his thoughts on the wind magic, Sylphide plucks Rude's hair, revealing her playful nature. Alicia says that the sky will be dark soon, and she wants to get back quickly. She makes Sylphide use her wind magic to fly them back home. Flying is something Rude has never experienced despite his enormously large skill catalog. He asks Alicia what other types of spirit magic she can use. She reveals that she specializes in ice, water, light, and earth magic, and spirits of darkness and fire aren't a good match for her. If a spirit has a bad compatibility with the user, it demands an enormous amount of magic power. The spirits might not even lend them any power. Since Sylphide is having fun playing with Rude, she likes him. Soon they discover smoke rising from a certain area. Alicia says that there should be a village in that direction. The village is being attacked by Baphomet, a demon spirit with a wide cluster of powers. Normally, gray wolves dwell in that area, and even the adventurers native to that village are perplexed by this eerie sight. They don't understand what is this monster they are being attacked by. Helpless and weak, the villagers are just staring at it, while the monster is summoning a literal spear with its magic. Before the spear makes contact with the two villagers standing in the guarding position, a surprising water bullet cancels out Baphomet's attack. Alicia asks the guys if they are okay, and upon confirming it, asks for a situation report. Meanwhile, Rude is preparing to fight the monster, and uses appraisal to take a quick evaluation of its difficulty. The monster is level 27, with exceptional skills. Even though its level is lower than a general lizard's, its stats are worlds apart. Rude feels that this monster is different compared to regular 27 levelers. Moreover, the monster possesses several skills. These include Principles of Fire Magic, Principles of Earth Magic, Echolocation, Increased Mana Recovery Speed, and Mental Strength. Since Rude's fire magic is too weak to be helpful in battle, he is excited to defeat the Baphomet, and then eat it to acquire its skills. Rude learns that the monster is physically strong too, as his attempt is blocked. He wonders if his attack was blocked due to the skill Steel Claws. With no other viable options, he decides to respond with brute force, and retaliates at that moment by activating Principles of Earth Magic. Rude barely manages to come out of its range. He realizes how smart the monster is when he notices that it fired all but kept 2 of its fire spears reserved to be used for defense. The monster is on guard, and Alicia suggests they should exchange information while they can. She informs him that the villagers haven't been evacuated yet, and asks the people from earlier to help guide the evacuees, though she still wants to find a way to avoid collateral damage. It's also not possible for Alicia to defeat Baphomet with powerful magic in one go. Rude guesses that Alicia's power must have depleted from the flight and her running about earlier. He believes they can't rely on her spirit magic, and tries to think of a plan. However, Alicia comes up to Rude and says that she will handle the magic part, and wants his trust on this. He rushes at the Baphomet, with Alicia supporting him from the rear. Baphomet's and Alicia's magic cancels each other out due to both being of opposite attributes with the same power. Following the cancellation of its attack, Baphomet utilizes the effects of the Principles of Earth Magic to launch another attack at Rude, though Alicia is still covering Rude. The monster is accurately firing pebbles of the same mass. Regardless of the jeopardy, Alicia is conserving magic power while avoiding collateral damage. He is amazed at her incredibly precise magic control. This proves that as a former S-rank adventurer, she is of a different caliber. Since Alicia is supporting him, Rude aims to end this soon. He enhances his physique with a physical boost and cuts off some fingers of the monster. This sends the monster on a rampage and it attempts to retaliate, but Alicia kills it with her fire magic. The monster explodes from the inside out. The villagers are witnessing their village engulfed in flames. Their expressions range from shock and despair to fear and sorrow as they reflect on the devastating loss of their houses. Suddenly they hear an explosion followed by a horrible scream. One of the local adventurers wonders if the adventurers from earlier managed to beat it. Another villager comments that if he wasn't injured, he would have stayed behind to help them. While they are concerned about Alicia and Rude's safety, Alicia appears there, much to their surprise. She informs them about the defeat of the Baphomet. She reveals that she did land a fatal blow, but if it somehow managed to survive, to prevent the monster from reappearing, they are going after it. She asks the villagers for a favor. The villagers, all ready to fulfill any wish of their saviors, ask her how they can help her. Alicia asks for food in a light-hearted manner. Somewhere in the forest, On the outskirts of the village, Rude is waiting for Alicia around the campfire. Alicia returns to Rude and informs him that everyone was able to evacuate. The credit mostly goes to the adventurers there. She says she told the villagers that they would be chasing after the Baphomet, so it shouldn't be suspicious that the corpse disappeared. Rude apologizes for the trouble and then thanks her. His attention is soon grabbed by the visually and aromatically spectacular Baphomet soup. Before he feasts on it, he adds some mugwort and ginger. His first impression of Baphomet meat is decent. Even after properly cooking the monster, he can smell a distinctive goat smell through his sense of smell. But it's delicious if you ignore it. Now Rudy possesses all the skills that the monster had. Alicia is tempted by the looks of the perfectly prepared food, though she is still disturbed watching Rude eat a monster so comfortably. Rude realizes that Alicia may be right. It's scary how he is getting used to eating monsters. Rude is joined by some uninvited guests. Level 22 Monster Stampig, who possesses a unique skill called Flash Step, which allows them to move rapidly when moving in a straight line over a certain distance. Similar to real pigs, they move in small groups. Rude thinks this is the opportunity for his magic combat debut and tries to attack the monsters with his magic, only for him to realize that his magic isn't working properly. One Stampig activates its skill and covers the distance in a split second, even running over Rude's food. Alicia reveals that she is running low on magic and can't offer much support. Rude, on the other hand, is furious. The food he prepared is wasted. He drained the blood from the Baphomet, removed the scum, and it took him a lot of time to do so. He wanted to enjoy it, so he did his best in trying to change its flavor. He wants the Stampigs to compensate. He expects the Stampigs to make it right by letting him eat their meat. Alicia grabs him by his collar and tells him to calm down. She explains that the skill of the Stampig that it used earlier increases their charging power. This makes even a single blow have considerable strength behind them. Her verdict is that they should fight at a distance that Flash Step can't reach. In other words, she wanted them to retreat. The adventurers have successfully evaded the Stampigs by climbing up a tree. Since the risk hasn't been eliminated, they stay there for a while. Alicia asks for an explanation of why his magic didn't work earlier. Rude is also bewildered over the fact that this is the first time he is unable to use the skills that he acquired through the taboo. Eating monsters. She suggests he check that skill with appraisal. The description of both principles of magic, fire and earth, says that those who possess these skills will instinctively understand how to use them. Alicia concludes that even if he can't use those skills, then that could only mean that his brain can't comprehend magic, though she reconsiders her statement because Rude is quite okay-ish at using fire magic. She tries to correct her theory, saying that it isn't a valid explanation. Alicia thinks it through and manages to find a possible reason. She tells him that maybe he isn't able to use monsters' skills because he doesn't know mana manipulation. She also says that she doesn't know much about mana, and it's best if he tries it himself. Rude says that he would give it a try and starts the process of manipulating it. He tries to reassure himself that it's just like back then when he ate the Minotaur. His goal is to bring out the burst of power, and in no time, he succeeds in doing that. As long as he can sense the mana, he can use it like it's a part of his own body. He uses the fire magic and points it in the direction where Stampigs are. This creates an explosion and likely kills all the Stampigs. Rude got his revenge on Stampigs. They ruined his meal, but they now have become the food themselves. He apologizes to Alicia for making her wait for so long. She tells him that there's no need to apologize because she knows how necessary it is. Alicia shares her opinion on his magic skills. She explains that for him to use his magic skills, he needs to use mana, not magic power, and she noticed that his mana was depleted during his previous attack. She speculates he can use it continuously. Rude admits feeling the mana surging through his body. He instantly understood how to use his skills. He thinks that if mana can replace magic power, then maybe he can do something similar and strengthen his weapons or body with mana instead. Among adventurers, many choose to hone their magic power, and many among them also use it in close combat. By circulating magic power around the body, your physical abilities are improved, and if you use it on a weapon, its power will increase. It's also possible to emit slashes. Alicia finally understood that because he had so little magic power up until now, he hadn't been able to use those skills. Rude has more mana than magic power, but more importantly, he gropes that he can replenish his mana just by eating monsters. While they are talking about mana and magic, he acquires Stampig's Flash Step skill by taking a bite. Alicia perceives that Rude can absorb mana by eating monsters, and he can even store it inside his body. However, what matters most to her is how appetizing those pork cutlets look. Seeing her staring at his food, he asks her if she feels like eating now. Suddenly, a loud noise catches the adventurers by surprise. When the smoke clears, they find a giant Stampig, the boss. Similar to the regular Stampigs, the giant Stampig uses Flash Step to crash into Alicia, though Rude saves her with his quick reflexes. The moment Alicia sensed that something was in the distance, The boss was in front of her instantly. Even though they aren't in a labyrinth, she tries to guess why in the world a threat of that level is outside. Meanwhile, Rude is once again furious because his food was wasted unnecessarily. After shouting like a madman, he remarks that the monster before them seems like it would make for a pretty good roast. However, it's already engulfed by the fire, and surprisingly its mass doesn't burn, revealing its fire-resistant skill. King Stampig is a level 38 monster with only 2 skills: Flash Step and Fire Resistance. But what makes it a threat is its endurance and strength. Rude uses principles of earth magic and imitates a punch to inflict some damage on the monster, but the imitation of the punch crumbles when the monster hits Rude with a traditional bull attack, not even allowing him to activate Steel Body. The next closest target to King Stampig is Alicia, but she uses Sylphide to avoid getting hit by its deadly headbutt. King Stampig isn't using a skill, it's just the sheer toughness of its thick fur and muscles. Whether it's Earth's magic or Spirit's wind magic, neither of them has enough power to penetrate its skin. The monster once again begins charging at Alicia, but at the right moment, Rude uses his skill Roar to grab the monster's attention. He tells the monster to not turn its eyes away, because it's not over yet. At his current, he can't use Flash Step or Steel Body, and if this fight were to become a battle of attrition, then there's a possibility that King Stampig will switch targets to Alicia. But he doesn't have a skill that can take the monster down in one blow, though the monster only knows how to charge straight. This is a sign that Rude can utilize a never-used-before skill that can allow him to triumph. The first thing he does is draw out the mana from within the body, then imagine pouring it into his sword. As the monster gets into the attacking range, Rude opens his eyes and swings his sword with all his might, cutting the monster in 2 halves. Alicia is shocked after witnessing Rude using mana to strengthen his weapon without any practice. He says that he tried it because it felt possible. Moreover, his mana has been leaking out. At the very moment, his sharp blade breaks into pieces. Alicia thinks Rudy's sword couldn't withstand the amount of mana poured into it. She explains a weapon is practically an extension of an adventurer's body. Both adventurers decide to end their adventure for the day, and Rude takes all the meat. On the 7th layer of the Miasma Labyrinth, the 3 adventurers who stole Rude's usual harvesting spot are fighting the great Miasma Rat. When the fight against the monster ends in their favor, their arrogance reaches another level. While laughing over the great Miasma Rat's dead body, one of those adventurers hears a low-toned sound. He decides to check the path where he hears the scream, and the rest of the guys follow him. They find a staircase leading to an underground room. Another adventurer comments that he is not feeling good about this, but regardless of his views, they continue to push forward, thinking it's a hidden path. They find a treasure chest in the room connected with a staircase. Even the chest is placed as if it's a trap. The adventurers think of opening it and looting the treasure inside it. They find a strong sword inside the chest. One of those adventurers highlights sensing strong magic coming from the sword. Rigard, the cautious adventurer who was hesitant to go there, says that this magic power they are sensing may be some sort of curse. The short, heightened adventurer, the most arrogant of them all, tells Rigard to stop being a killjoy. He explains why this treasure chest is important to them. They have been struggling because there weren't any ways to make easy money. Moreover, they haven't seen Miasma Scavenger around lately. He convinces them that this is a blessing from heaven for all the hard work they have done, because they have been doing dives late at night in hopes of finding something to make a living. Since Miasma Scavenger was mentioned earlier, Rigard tells his companions that Rude has been hanging out with an extremely beautiful elf woman. The other 2 laugh at Rude, thinking that he must have forgotten his social standing. When they are about to leave, Rigard appears to be starting at the treasure chest. At the frontier city Bologna, Rudy and Alicia are looking to purchase a weapon for Rude. They visit a smithy called Miner's Hammer, which is run by Dome, a weapon forging specialist. Dome is stunned looking at the sword that he forged himself to be in that condition. He believes that brute strength alone shouldn't have broken it into such a state. He asks Rude what he imbued into the sword. Alicia whispers into his ear, questioning if it's okay to reveal the information. Rude replies that he is going to explain everything, because he has known Dome for a long time, and Dome is the type that does not spill others' secrets. With that, he spills everything from eating monsters, to gaining powers, to imbuing mana into the sword. Alicia asks Dome why isn't he surprised. He says that as long as food tastes good to Rude, it doesn't matter what he eats. Dome agrees to make him a sword that can withstand blows imbued with mana, but it is going to take a while since he has to research how to craft something complex. Rude asks if Dome needs anything to continue. Dome demands some high-quality magic stones. Rude takes out magic stones that he acquired after slaying the Minotaur, General Lizard, and Baphomet. He is sure now that Rude has grown quite stronger. Rude blushes hearing Dome praising him. Dome gives him a temporary replacement and warns him to not imbue magic into it. If it breaks, he is going to make Rude compensate for it dearly next time. After this, Rude and Alicia eat at Full Belly Restaurant. Alicia says that they should refrain from using magic attacks for a while. She feels glad to have met Rude's friend for the first time, even though it was intense. When he jokes about how he feels sorry for being a longer, the three adventurers show up asking to join them. Alicia asks them if they have a problem, and if that's the case, she challenges them to a drinking contest. Rondo, the adventurer who was equipped with the blade they found in the miasma labyrinth, abruptly falls on a table. Perplexed, the arrogant adventurer asks Rondo if he is drunk or what. He notices the sword emitting a dark red aura. The arrogant adventurer thinks that Rondo must have sold it, and is surprised to see it in his hands. Rondo awakens and attacks the arrogant adventurer, exacerbating a deep injury. Possessed by the sword's curse, the Rondo switches target to Alicia. Rude jumps in and dodges its attack on his borrowed sword. Rude wonders what is up with Rondo. The diners are furious seeing Rondo causing a commotion when they are eating, and most of them try to halt the fight by grabbing Rondo by his arms. Alicia attempts to use magic to stop possessed Rondo, though it might destroy the wall behind him, therefore she apologizes to the manager beforehand. Despite Alicia's fierce offense, Rondo gets back on his feet. Rude asks Alicia if she held back. She replies that an adventurer shouldn't be able to stand after being struck by something of that level. When Rondo begins sprinting toward our adventurers, Rude also charges at him to prevent him from causing any more damage. Alicia asks the manager, who is also the chef, to heal the injured, that is, if he can use healing magic. Rude sees madness when he checks Rondo's status through his appraisal, which is normally marked as normal. The Rondo Rude is currently fighting is different compared to the one he knows. His stats are way higher. Alicia cooks up a magic charge and asks Rude to move aside. She reveals she is going all out this time. However, this time, the sword absorbs her attack. Alicia realizes that the sword Rondo is equipped with is cursed. Much to their astonishment, Rondo also appears to be leveling up by absorbing magic. The bond of sword symbiosis begins to take hold of his arm. Rondo then jumps at him, and although he manages to block it, the weight Rondo puts behind his swing is several times greater than his previous ones. When Rude finds his legs exposed, he grazes his leg, but Rude notices that the red and black tentacles-like things are closing up his wounds. Alicia can't support him with magic either, as it might get absorbed by the sword again. If she wants to help Rude, she thinks she has to look for an opening and deliver a decisive blow. When Alicia and Rudy are planning to kill Rondo, Rigard comes out of the restaurant's destroyed wall and requests they don't kill his friend. He admits doing terrible things to Rude, but for him who couldn't succeed and could only look down on those below him, Magnus and Rondo were his only solace. He wholeheartedly requests they should spare his life. Rude says that he would try his best. Rude informs Alicia that he is going to use the substitute and demands she let him fight for a minute. He remembers it took him about 10 seconds to activate the substitute skill on Alicia. The problem in this fight is how is he going to keep Rondo under control while getting rid of the curse. Rude is once again attacked by Rondo, but he barely manages to block it. When it comes to retaliation, he just holds the magic sword back so the sword won't absorb the magic. He uses principles of the earth magic to confine Rondo's movement. He believes he can get rid of Rondo's curse the same way he did with Alicia, that is if the cause of his state is a curse. In the critical moment, Rudy uses substitute skills. The substitute ability makes Rondo regain control over his consciousness. He requests Rude to save him. Rude's efforts to remove the curse from taking possession of Rondo's body fail. When the substitute skill cancels out, he is thrown back. Rude realizes that it wasn't Rondo who rejected his skill. It was most likely that sword's will. He guesses he could have a chance at winning if he was to weaken the curse a bit more. Rude uses principles of fire magic to weaken the curse, only to realize that Rondo broke through the restraints, though he managed to remove the curse from his left arm. With that being the case, he decides to attack outside the range of his right arm. However, that isn't going to be easy, as the possessed Rondo is showcasing incredible movement. But more important than that is how he absorbed his magic. This somehow gets far worse than Rude had imagined. The two-headed curse, Graham, takes over Rondo. The body that belonged to Rondo now isn't his anymore. This guarantees that he couldn't be saved anymore. Rude uses the appraisal to evaluate the incarnation's level, but it doesn't show anything, other than his condition. Now, in its full potential, the monster continues the fight from where it left off previously. Just a few moments ago, Rude was stunned at how fast half-possessed Rondo was. But this new transformation of his is multiple times faster and more agile than his previous. Expectedly, Rude isn't able to suppress the curse's attacks. He notices that Rondo isn't making any unnecessary movements, just like a veteran. Out of the blue, the possessed Rondo jumps over Rude, but Alicia steps in at the right moment, and she throws a magical attack that she had already charged. Even though she normally operates from the rear, she doesn't miss the chance to strike the monster with a direct kick. This is then followed by another magic attack that sends him flying. Rude thanks her and says that he didn't know she could also fight at close range. Alicia remarks that a wizard who becomes useless as soon as the enemy gets close is nothing but a burden to others. Since he isn't an opponent they can take lightly, she demands Rude change his mindset, because Rondo's curse has already progressed too much. The only way to stop Rondo is by destroying his heart. Rude understands the mission and stands up to annihilate the curse. Meanwhile, Rigurd and Magnus are panicking after hearing Alicia talk about the plan to destroy Rondo's heart. Despite the fight being a handicap, it still is in the curse's favor. Even with two people, they can't create a decisive opening. He wonders if having two heads gives it a wider field of vision. He decides to try it out and asks Alicia to back off for a second. Rude uses magic to create smog around the place. Alicia approves of Rude's plan because the curse can't absorb it. Rude utilizes the best of this moment and leaves a shallow wound on the curse. Alicia then uses Earth Attribute Spirit Magic and summons Nomia. Although she impales the curse through magic, it only grazes the heart. The curse attempts to retaliate, but Rigurd and Magnus jump in to stop him. Rigurd shouts that he will stop him even if Rondo has to embrace death. He says that it has to be three of them. The party is made up of the three. In the last-ditch effort, Magnus finally impales Rondo's heart. It had to be Magnus, Rondo's close friend, who freed him from the misery of the curse. They are grieving over their friend's death, who couldn't have been saved. Rude picks up the cursed sword and wonders what to do with it. Even if he were to hide it, the next victim could appear the very next day, so that's out of the options. The sword has an eye placed a little over the handle. When the sword shows murderous intent, it screams kill. Rude tells it to shut it because such noises don't work on him. Suddenly, the Bologna Branch Guildmaster Lankars arrives at the scene to check the gravity of the situation. He finds Rondo's dead body on the ground and glances at the sword that is currently in Rude's hands. He demands being enlightened about everything that happened there and suggests they should go to the guild. After learning everything about the curse and why Rondo's death was their only option to end the curse, Lankars comments that he is sure that other adventurers would be convinced by Magnus's testimony. After this, he asks Rude if he feels anything equipping the cursed sword. Rude says that curses don't work on him due to his abnormal status nullification. So long as he holds on to this sword, there won't be another victim. Lankars approves of him having the sword, but in exchange, if he is ever possessed by the cursed sword, they will do whatever it takes to stop him. Rude also agrees to his terms. He tells Rude and Alicia how grateful he is that these two were able to contain this incident, and he also extends his condolences to Magnus and Rigurd. After this, Lankars says that he doesn't think anyone will have time to relax because the number of monsters outside the labyrinth has been increasing at an abnormal rate, and the adventurers standing behind him were also called up for this reason. These monsters have come from the recently found Abellio labyrinth, and according to the reports from the survey team, there is a certain monster inside that labyrinth that is behind this unprecedented event. This monster, Miasma Dragon Basilista, is estimated to be level 70 or above. Its fighting prowess alone isn't something to be trifled with, but the biggest problem is that it spreads high concentrations of miasma. It is speculated that the Miasma Basilista releases stimulate other monsters, causing even more of them to be released from the dungeon, and as a result, the survey team has suffered some losses. The people who were involved in this mission are undergoing treatment. Lankars fears that if things continue like this, it won't just end with the monsters. Its miasma will end up sleeping outside the labyrinth, and it will cause catastrophic damage to the area. This was the reason he was looking for Rude. Rude says that he understands. But first, he demands to meet with the remaining survey team members. Lankars takes him and Alicia to the medical ward, where Rude uses substitute skills and treats one of the survey team members, taking Lankars aback with his unique skill. When Lankars says that he never knew Rude could nullify the abnormal condition, Rude reveals that it only works if the person he is treating doesn't reject him. After witnessing the condition of survey team members, he tells Lankars that only he and Alicia would be participating in this miasma dragon subjugation. He explains that the fewer people he has to protect in the labyrinth, the easier it will be to move around. Moreover, fighting strong opponents is something he aspires to do. Lankarsi says that he understands and will entrust the subjugation of the miasma dragon Basilista in his hands. Since it's already night, they decide to get a good night's sleep and prepare themselves. On their way, Alicia asks if they are going to be all right with just the two of them. He replies that he can use his skills without reservations if there aren't any people around. After this, he apologizes for dragging her into this. Alicia ridicules him for saying something gibberish and replies that if he had said something like he was going alone, she would have given him a beating. They are a party, and the two of them are enough to save everyone. Rude and Alicia have made it to the Abellio Labyrinth's lowest floor. The first monster species they are up against are level 20 Bobgoblin, which possesses physical boost and club mastery. Expectedly, they are among the monsters that are affected by the miasma. Despite their levels and stats, they aren't more than just ordinary goblins for Rude, who cuts one of the monsters in two halves with a single blow. Rude wasn't told that the floor they are on right now would also be affected by the miasma. Alicia says that the monster existing on this floor just shows how quickly the miasma is spreading. Even her purification items aren't effectively purifying the miasma. Rude thinks that many of the monsters on the next floor aren't alive anymore. Just to confirm if Alicia wants to proceed or not, he asks her if she is willing to continue. She responds positively and is sure that his attributes might not work against the monster. Moreover, she is confident that she can land a few good hits, even if close-range combat is inevitable. Another reason why she is resolute on not leaving is because previously she was forced to leave her friends, which led her to a traumatic experience. Rude apologizes to Alicia for making her remember something unpleasant. He then uses the substitute skill to extract the miasma building up on Alicia. Rude reveals that he can remove the effects of the miasma whenever they make contact, but as soon as he lets her go, it will start to slowly build up again. Alicia suggests in that case, they should just hold hands and keep going like that. She reveals that she can't see her feet that well because of all the miasma, so on top of the substitute, he will be escorting her too. Their primary target is just 5 floors away, so they continue with their mission and proceed to the next floors. Soon after, the adventurers make it to the middle floors of the Abellio labyrinth. The deeper they go, the thicker the miasma gets. Rude uses echolocation and finds 2 monsters ahead. Alicia guesses that if they can survive in this dense miasma, then those monsters must be pretty formidable. Rude adds that these monsters seem like the type that he has never seen before. Rude shows the desire to fight these monsters, even though there is a detour. Alicia asks him why he wants to fight the monsters. Is it because he wants to eat them? He feels somewhat offended by her comment and says that it's a bit out of curiosity. He wants to test out the cursed sword, Graham, before they square off against the miasma dragon. The 2 monsters, Rolling Beetle, are level 33 and have a good number of skills. These include Steel Body, which Rude already acquired from killing a different species of spiders, Revolution, Poison Resistance, Miasma Resistance. No wonder these monsters weren't affected by the miasma. And lastly, the Paralysis Resistance. When Rude gets the chance to start the fight, he activates Principles of Earth Magic and destroys the platform the Rolling Beetles were crawling on, only to realize that this didn't work. The beetle curls up its body and starts rolling forward, targeting our adventurers. He asks Alicia to do something about it. She uses Nomia and commands her to stop the rolling beetle. Alicia succeeds in stopping it, but says that she can't halt it for very long, and needs Rude to assist her. Rude gets back to being the tank of his party and draws out the cursed sword. He daunts the sword to not break on him and attempts to kill the monster in the blink of an eye. The cursed sword turns out to be so sharp that the stone cover that Nomia set up is also sliced into 2 halves. However, the monster isn't dead yet. Its scales were too shallow that not even a cursed blade was able to cut it. Rude believes that the cursed sword doesn't have enough power, so he asks Alicia to charge it with her magic. When the blade is charged with the magic of an S-rank adventurer, it unleashes its true power, annihilating the monster in mere seconds. Witnessing the death of one of its kind, the other beetle begins trembling in fear. Rude brings that monster's story to an end too with just a single hit. Rude praises Alicia for having pristine magic control. As they celebrate their victory, Rude once again grabs her hand and enables substitute skill to remove building up miasma. After this, he asks Alicia if he can have some more time. Absorbing the magic power didn't really restore the mana in his body, so he wanted to eat the monsters. He cooks up the rolling beetle and starts feasting out. Alicia asks him how he felt using the cursed sword. He explains that once he absorbs enough magic power, his physical abilities greatly improve. Alicia believes that if he pours his mana into the cursed sword, it won't break, unlike his previous blade. He wonders how effective this sword is going to be against the miasma dragon, which according to eyewitnesses' reports is as big as a tree. He divulges that his previous sword was better in terms of weight behind the attack. Suddenly, the cursed sword starts demanding something. Confused, Rude asks to confirm if it is meat that the sword is asking. The sword then explicitly asks for the magic stone. Rude takes out a magic stone from his bag and before giving it to the cursed sword, he mixes some of his blood into it. The sword gobbles up the magic stone and grows greatly in size, much to their surprise. Alicia inquires of him about how he knows the magic stone was what the sword was calling for. Rude tells her that the sword communicated with him directly into his head. He wonders if it got annoyed because he called it weak. Rude informs Alicia that he has pretty much figured out how to use the cursed sword. The adventurers seem to have made great progress. They are just a floor above where the miasma dragon was last spotted. Just when they mention the miasma dragon, they get to hear it roaring. But it's so unfathomably loud that even the ceiling above them is about to collapse. Rude suggests they should support the ceiling with earth magic, but Alicia does not approve of Rude's plan. She explains that if they try to protect themselves, the stairs will end up getting blocked, and they will lose their chances to fight the miasma dragon. Since it has come to this, she decides to break through all the extra floors and reach the floor they were headed for, the miasma dragon floor. After a rough adventure, our adventurers safely make it somewhere. They try to check the place around, but it's too dark. Rude uses his thermal search and discovers what is creating the mist. It is the miasma dragon, Basilista. They were told that the monster was level 70, but it was level 75 in reality. Basilista has every great attribute, but his agility is weak for a monster his level, though his vitality is over 500. The miasma dragon carries a wide range of incredible and rare skills. Rude also catches a glimpse of its fangs and claws, which are poisoned. But more importantly, the dragon has already noticed them, and this isn't a good sign. The mere glimpse of the monster sends them into a panic. Alicia asks Rude what kind of magic resistance this monster possesses. He reveals that fire, earth, lightning, and darkness won't be effective. She chooses to use other attributes. The miasma dragon once again roars, but our adventurers are ready this time. Rude wanted to keep his distance and watch from afar until he figured out the monster's attack pattern, but everything happened in just seconds. Moreover, he isn't sure how long can Alicia last in this thick miasma. He wants to end this as soon as possible. Like any mythical dragon, the miasma dragon shoots fire and nearly takes out Rude. However, Rude uses Flash Step and dodges the attack. The intensity of the attack melts the pillar and floor. Alicia, operating from the rear, calls out Sylphide, who uses wind magic and gets Rude closer to the miasma dragon. At almost the speed of sound, Rude manages to land a scratch on the dragon's skin, but is unable to fully penetrate it due to its thick skin. He is convinced that his sword and the magic he uses aren't compatible with it. Even Alicia's spirit magic isn't making any difference. The monster remains unscathed. While they are preparing their next move, the dragon throws the quills at Rude and Alicia by wagging its tail. Rude and Alicia both blocked that attack with steel body and spirit magic respectively. They wonder how they are going to deal with the dragon. It has high defensive power and even has various long-range attacks. Alicia asks for Rudy to buy her some time, and she reveals she is about to use her special move. While she is preparing to unleash her special move, Rude uses principles of earth magic and attempts to deal as much damage as he can in close range. Not only is he taking offense, but is also simultaneously defending Alicia. Alicia has left herself completely defenseless and is relying on Rude. She has to make up for his share and pour all of his magic power into this one attack. She summons all of her elementals, Salam, Urdale, Nomia, and Wakian, and continues to work on that special attack. Meanwhile, Rude is going all out fighting her and then tracking back to protect her. Soon she informs Rude that she is done preparing. He needs to get out of the way. Alicia launches her special move, Spirit's Quintet, which brightens the entire room. When the smog disappears, the monster is still standing despite all the injuries it has received. She failed to take it down and remarks that if she was at her full strength, she could have finished it in one shot. Rude calls her Spirit's Quintet attack a nice shot, and he tells her that it's his turn now. Alicia used all of her magic power unleashing her previous attack, and now can't help Rude. Rude tells her to not worry about anything, and that she should use the remaining magic power to protect herself. He says that he will be dealing with the monster from here on. To exhibit how terrifying it can be, the monster roars and shakes up the entire dungeon. Rude also uses the roar skill he acquired from the Minotaur to show the dragon that he isn't just a puny human. Previously, he absorbed the dark magic protecting Alicia, and it had a whole lot of mana infused into it. At his current, Rude's power is overflowing. All confident and eager to fight, he charges at the monster and cuts through the scales that are on its arm. Despite having an unfathomably fast acceleration and agility, Rude realizes that his sword is becoming less and less effective. The mana absorbed by Graham is gradually disappearing. Just when Rude is slowing down, the monster exploits his miasma wave attack. Rude may be resistant to all sorts of miasma attacks, but he is still being moved by the impact of the wave. The monster wags its tail and throws the quills at Rude. After calculating the trajectory of the quills, he realizes that dodging these spikes is quite possible, but what's impossible is dodging the follow-up move from the dragon. Regardless of the zero possibility of survival, he uses Flash Step, hoping to escape the attacking range. Unfortunately, he fails to flee from the range of monster's attacking range, and as a result, he is hit by its claw. Just before getting hit, he activates Steel Body, though he still can't escape the impact and is sent flying into the far corner of the room. He managed to figure out the distance he traveled during the Flash Step, but was still overpowered. Seeing himself in a desperate situation, Rude recalls the time when he was up against the Minotaur, the time he nearly died. But there's a huge difference between him now and the Rude from back then. He doesn't give up, and once again keeps on going. When the monster is about to use its breath, he decides to just not keep dodging it anymore, because he doesn't want this fight to turn into a battle of attrition, which guarantees his loss. He activates thread manipulation and plans on using those threads as the slingshots. He launches himself like a human projectile on the slingshot, whereas the miasma dragon exhales fire to counter Rude's attack. Rude can't do anything about the heat coming from its breath, but he can absorb the mana inside its breath. He thinks that if his fire resistance is enough to withstand its breath, then he can strengthen the weapon using his mana and combine it with the mana Graham has absorbed thus far, releasing it all at once. His skin starts to burn from the heat produced by the miasma dragon's breath. In a critical moment, Alicia uses some of her remaining magic and throws water at Rude to protect him from the heat. When he gets the chance to strike, he doesn't miss it. Rude's ultimate attack is cutting the enemy in two halves, and he succeeds at pulling it off. Rude is on the verge of collapsing. He is just able to talk to Alicia. When she is about to cast healing magic on him, he tells her to not push herself any more than she has already done. Rude explains that he possesses a skill called Bloodlust, which he can use to recover, though it only heals him a little. He got this skill from the hidden labyrinth. After regaining some of his energy, he and Alicia take a little break by lying flat on the ground. They are happy and surprised that they were able to fight and win against the miasma dragon. Alicia adds that this is just the start of their adventures. They are about to explore more. Hearing an S-rank talking about adventures with him reminds him of the adventurer who saved him when he was just a kid. He remembers that the hero who saved him was strong, far stronger than he currently is. Traditionally, Rude eats some monster meat, and then they agree to explore the deepest part of the dungeon. On the deepest floor, they find the labyrinth's core. Alicia reveals that even among adventurers, only a handful have had the privilege of seeing it. She also divulges that if they use the magic circle that is in front of the core, they will be sent back to the labyrinth's entrance immediately. Seeing the core burning bright, Alicia says that it's normal to leave the core unbroken, even if someone clears it. Moreover, he can fetch the materials that he can't gather outside and leave if he wants to. However, he doesn't want the dragon to resurrect, because as long as the core remains, the dragon's resurrection is inevitable. Rude went through hell in the Yahello labyrinth, but thanks to those experiences, a path to his dream opened up. He finally breaks the core. In the Bologna, Guildmaster Lankars wants reports on Rude and Alicia's progress. He is informed that there are no reports on their return yet. Inside, Lankars was aware that Rude was known as Miasma Scavenger. In the words of adventurers, power is everything. Even if Lankars had tried to mediate the situation, it wouldn't have stopped. If that was enough to make him give up his dreams, then that too is another path. While Lankars is contemplating what to do next, he abruptly receives a report about Rude and Alicia's return through a teleportation circle. The reporter reports that the subjugation of the miasma dragon and the destruction of the dungeon core was successful. Rude and Alicia did it. Lankars is surprised but happy more than that. He never thought Rude, the infamous miasma scavenger, would end up saving the city. The guild then welcomes the heroes who saved the city of Bologna from a level 75 threat. In Golar, a city near Bologna, the lord of the city is furious over the matter of Bologna destroying the labyrinths. He planned on seizing ownership of the labyrinth, which isn't possible anymore. However, his advisor, the second in command, thinks that this destruction of the Yahello labyrinth is better for them, because Bologna could not deny the legitimacy of Golar's claims of ownership. Because of that, they have decided that destroying it is better than handing it over. With that being the situation, he believes that they could argue with Bologna Guild and have them compensate. The Lord also has positives about that plan. He also thinks that it would be a better way to profit than by challenging the labyrinth themselves and losing the adventurers in the process. Though the Lord is quite sure that if it happens, the Bologna Guild won't stay quiet. The advisor says that he wants to show the guildmaster who is superior. Elsewhere, Rudy and Alicia are out in the wilderness. Rude is cooking his usual monster essence, but this time it's the rare miasma dragon steak. Rude kept miasma dragons reserved in his bag. He is now happy to be tasting something so rare. Rude goes crazy after the first bite. He reveals that every meat he has had so far pales in comparison to the miasma dragon's meat. It has a rich, sweet flavor, and the fat just melts on the tongue. As he is explaining how delicious the food he is savoring is, Alicia is drooling like usual. She stands up and says that tonight they are going to have some premium steak, and she needs Rude's help in the location for the best food. Rude tells her that he is in the middle of eating the steak and can't help her. Alicia replies that they need to hurry and gather information on good restaurants around the city, so he should finish already. Following the collapse of the Yahello labyrinth, 4 days have passed. The guildmaster Lankars has summoned our adventurers to finalize the reports on the raid. After the report completion, Lankars hands them their rewards, 1.5 million Regan. Rude is stunned to see that big of a sum. Lankras explains that the required level for the Yahello LA3 Byrinth is 70, so the amount Rude and Alicia have received is fair and well-deserved. After handing him the reward, he informs Rude that they will be updating his rank, because just the two of them conquered that labyrinth all by themselves. Rude was recently promoted to D rank. He is quite surprised that his rank will be re-evaluated once again. He is already a level 52 adventurer. Alicia thinks that even if he has been fighting monsters way above his level, the speed at which he is growing is abnormal. Normally, if an adventurer reaches level 40, their leveling slows down immensely. Alicia catches him grinning when she looks his way. Before she can figure out why, Rude smugly discloses that he's finally surpassed her level. She opens her level window, revealing her level, which is level 45. Rude says that even if he may be higher in level when it comes to combat power, she is still stronger. She agrees that the levels are just an indicator. In the end, combat power is mostly defined by the skills and experience of that person. As they are talking about levels, they notice the Lord of Golar entering through the main entrance of their guild. The Lord recognizes Rude as the miasma scavenger in an instant. Convinced that the man before him is a disrespectful person, Rude inquires about his identity. The Lord makes snarking remarks that the adventurers of Bologna do not even know the faces of their neighboring city's lords. Rude seems to have heard about the misery Lord of the Golar. After an indirect introduction, the Lord starts pestering Rude for destroying the labyrinth. Rude replies that the last time he heard about the ownership of the Abellio labyrinth, it was jointly owned. The Lord reveals that the Abellio labyrinth was on the border between the Golar and Bologna. However, Bologna shut them out, claiming that something strange was happening inside the labyrinth. On top of that, they even caused an influx of monsters to appear, and then they destroyed the labyrinth. He asks Rude how are they going to compensate Golar City for the profits that they were supposed to gain from the labyrinth and the damage to their surrounding territories because of the monsters. Alicia interrupts the Lord and tells him that these kinds of matters should be settled by the guild representatives. Moreover, she remarks that there haven't been any reports of monsters flooding Golar's territories, and it should have been reported already that several of Bologna's adventurers have already dealt with the situation. She then questions who granted the people who didn't contribute to anything the right to speak. Rude isn't surprised that Alicia is eloquent with her words. She is an experienced S-ranked adventurer after all. The guildmaster from Golar, the second in command, recognizes Alicia of the Emerald Stone. He heard rumors about her being affiliated with Bologna and now has confirmed it with his very own eyes. The guildmaster insults Alicia without any filter, remarking that seeing as how she should have eaten away by the curse of the abyssal labyrinth, it would only make sense for someone like her to be suited for the likes of Bologna. Rude recalls a vague memory of him being the guild master of Golar. The guild master from Golar also acknowledges that mere adventurers should not have a say in this matter. He gets closer to Alicia and whispers in her ear that she is a worthless survivor from a party that died in vain, so she should stop sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. He finishes his sentence by emphasizing calling her trash. The guildmaster's comments trigger her to activate her magic. The pressure in the room increases, and he, the mighty guildmaster, feels intimidated by a declining adventurer whose level has been lowered to level 45. The guildmaster of Bologna, Leinkars, intervenes and stops the situation from getting any worse. He says that he won't tolerate any fighting within his guild, and tells the Lord and the guildmaster to follow him. Even when following Leinkars, the guildmaster from Golar continues to make disrespectful comments to Alicia. When the guests leave for the guildmaster's office, a new guest calls out Alicia's name to get her attention. He appears to be an elf with a distinctive, beautiful face. This guy asks Alicia if she remembers him. Rude had enough of dealing with troublesome people. He doesn't want to get into any more trouble. Alicia refers to him as Ebert, indicating that she is already familiar with him. When Rude asks her if she knows him, she explains that he is from an old party. They used to go on adventures together. Ebert says that he used to admire azure trails, especially Alicia, who as a fellow elf inspired him with her special ability to cast multiple elementals simultaneously. He also seems to be aware of her curse and how much she has suffered because of that. He reveals that he came to Bologna only to invite her to join his party. Alicia declines his offer, saying that she already has formed a new party. She tries to introduce Rude, and when Rude extends his hand for a handshake, Ebert slaps his hand, indicating that he has no interest in being friends, or more accurately being acquainted with Rude. Ebert completely ignores Rude and proceeds to talk with Alicia. He tells Alicia how sorry he feels for her because she, an S-rank, ended up with someone known as Miasma Scavenger. He believes he can put good use of her skills and experience if she joins his party. This angers her slightly bit. She distances herself from him and tells him to not say something that he doesn't even understand. She willingly formed a party with Rude, and any insults against her party members were an insult to her. Although she may be furious, she doesn't forget to thank someone who tried to look out for her. Additionally, she also discloses that the curse placed on her has also been removed. Ebert doesn't believe it, because that curse was from the SS rank Abyssal Labyrinth. The boss that cursed her resides on the top floor of the labyrinth. She implicitly implies that she had a fortune encounter with somebody, which sends Ebert contemplating. To top it off, she remarks that they would be going to reevaluate Rude's rank, so he won't be an ordinary C rank or D rank. Seeing Alicia caring about Rude, even though he has been thinking about her this whole time, Ebert concludes that Rude must be instigating Alicia. In the first place, He doesn't even believe that Rude took down the miasma dragon, though it would be a different story if Alicia's curse was lifted. He assumes that Alicia must have solely taken it down, and the miasma scavenger is stealing the credit for her achievements. While leaving, Rude tells Alicia that Abert is grazing at him like crazy. Alicia enlightens him that elves are a prideful race, and there are many of them whose prejudice becomes harsher throughout their long lives. Rude asks her if she is also one of those prejudiced and prideful types. Alicia thinks of herself as a very humble, understanding, and charming elf. This statement makes her appear as a prideful kind of elf like Abert. After this, Rude and Alicia fetch Rude's new rank documents. The receptionist informs him that he has skipped past C rank and is officially a B rank now. The increase in his level is a testament to how difficult Abellio Labyrinth's quest was. She discloses that the guild also received reports from the villagers they saved. So expectedly, the defeat of the Baphomet has been taken into account. Riegert and Magnus also congratulate Rude for obtaining a B rank. They tell him that everyone in the town is grateful to him. Seeing him excited and fulfilled, Alicia divulges that he shouldn't be satisfied with just reaching B rank. After all, his aim should be to become an S rank adventurer. Rude and Alicia cheer, motivating one another to aim for the S rank. The prideful elf Ebert once again ruins their moment. He says that something foolish can't be forgiven. The information one can obtain about dungeons depends on the rank. This is a rule established for the safety of the adventurers. And yet a man who didn't contribute in anything and followed others achieved a B rank. He triggers everyone when he comments that the Bologna Guild is full of idiots. In response, the receptionist discloses that ranks up can be awarded by the guild at their discretion. Magnus asks Abert to take back the words he said if he doesn't want to get hurt. Abert repeats the clause, instead of apologizing. Enraged, Magnus grabs him from his collar, but before he can manage to do anything, Ebert sends him flying. Magnus is further pinned down by Ebert's sword. The prideful elf apprises Magnus to refrain from touching him with his dirty hands. Alicia asks Ebert to stop causing trouble. He thinks that Alicia is just being kind to a homeless man like Magnus. Ebert gets that he is prideful, and when he decides to do something he doesn't change his mind very easily, but still has the wrong idea about himself. He believes that he is a humble, understanding, and charming elf, and as someone from the same race, he thinks that he is the only one who can show her the right way. Rude laughs at hearing Ebert repeat the same words as Alicia. He is convinced that the elves in general have a high sense of pride. Out of nowhere, Ebert challenges Rude, remaking that he, an incompetent adventurer, is a danger to other adventurers. He wants to test out if Rude deserves to be a B rank. Alicia responds positively. She tells Ebert that he can see for himself how strong Rude is. After this, the prideful elves and the miasma scavenger join the Bologna Guild's training grounds. Alicia apologizes for dragging Rudy into this. Rude tells her that she is not one at fault here. The things got to this point because he is incompetent. All Rude needs to do is beat the challenger and prove that he is worthy of being by her side. In the end, adventurers are people who can silence others with their strength. Before the fight starts, Alicia announces that if either of the fighters is seriously injured, she will step in and stop the fight. As soon as the fight starts, the elf charges at Rude, showcasing his incredible speed and strength. Rude wasn't anticipating Ebert to make an explosive start, though he blocked the attack. Ebert doesn't relent and continues to display remarkable swordsmanship, not even letting Rude breathe for a moment. Rude comes to realize that Ebert is superior to him in swordsmanship, and earlier he heard from Alicia that Ebert uses both offensive magic and enhancement magic in combat. Simply, he is a magic swordsman who uses haste and physical boost. Ebert abruptly disappears and reappears behind Rude, catching him off guard with a sword strike. Rude couldn't follow Ebert's movements with his eyes, and hence took a hit. Ebert reveals he is a B rank. It's a title that only those with at least this level of power should be allowed to hold. After demonstrating his power, Ebert makes a statement that Rude isn't worthy of holding the title of a B rank and staying by Alicia's side. Rude admits that he isn't worthy of standing next to Alicia with his current abilities, but it wasn't him who chose to stay by her side. Alicia was the one who chose him. Rude says that he is going to show him why he is worthy of being by her side. This time Rude initiates the fight using principles of earth magic. Ebert calls him an idiot for thinking that he can win against him. A magic specialist, through magic. Ebert responds by using a fire attack, which creates an explosion. Following the fire attack, the elf cooks up another one of his special magic attacks. However, Graham absorbs all the magic energy from Ebert's attacks, and discloses that he expected him to compete with magic. After all, elves are a pretty prideful race. Rude takes the lead with his mana recharged blade, and achieves incredible speed and strength. When Ebert calls Rude's blade a magic sword, Rude tells him that he is wrong. It's a cursed sword. Rude grazes Ebert with his sword, but in response, Ebert calls him a freak for carrying a cursed sword. He has now found another reason to resent Rude. He activates the lightning attribute enchantment magic sword technique, and attains extraordinary speed that Rude isn't able to follow. After this technique, Ebert enables lightning palm skill to send electricity throughout Rude's entire body. After nearly burning Rude with his back-to-back lightning attacks, he asks Alicia to call out the winners. What the prideful elf expected the least happens. Rude grabs him from his collar and divulges that lightning's attacks don't work on him. He absorbed paralysis through status abnormality in just the nick of time. Shocked, Ebert remarks that Rude should have been paralyzed when hit by that much lightning. In response, Rude demonstrates that sometimes actions speak louder than words by headbutting the narcissist elf. Rude wins the fight by pinning Ebert down the same way he did to Magnus, chucking the sword close to Ebert's head. Back to the Bologna Guild. The Bologna Guild Master is having a thorough discussion with the Lord and Guild Master of the Golar City regarding the destruction of Abellio Labyrinth. Lankars informs the guests that the feudal lord is currently on official business at the capital, and so he was entrusted with the role of his deputy. After this, Lankarsi says that he has understood Golar's claims. Since they were in charge of the management, they intend to fully cooperate with their efforts to recover from the damage. The Lord states that Golar doesn't need cooperation, they want compensation, a fair amount of money for their ownership of the labyrinth. He further adds that the authorities of Bologna have become greedy and took more than what they deserved, and that's why they need to pay the appropriate price. Suddenly, a female worker barges into the office and reports that something strange is happening in the Abellio Labyrinth, which was confirmed to have completely collapsed. The surrounding area of the Abellio Labyrinth is covered with an unprecedented amount of mana, and its concentration is B rank. Currently, 2 gargoyles are guarding the entrance. They are preventing any interference from the outside. Guildmaster Lankars remarks that this isn't the time to entertain the petty squabbles of Golar. He states that he is going to organize a subjugation force and immediately head to Abellio New Labyrinth to investigate. He orders the woman worker to summon every B rank or higher adventurer, even Rude too. When everyone has gathered at Lankars's office, he explains that they have confirmed the beginning of the labyrinth cycle, and the reason adventurers were summoned is that they want to subdue this cycle as soon as possible. The Guildmaster's emphasis on the labyrinth cycle makes Rude question Alicia what the labyrinth cycle is. She explains that the labyrinth cycle causes labyrinth to evolve, though it's a pretty rare case and she has only heard about it a few times. In other words, she will also be going to an evolving labyrinth for the first time. However, Alicia is concerned about the B rank mana around the labyrinth. Rude thinks that it won't be a problem because he is B rank. Moreover, they are being accompanied by A ranks. Ebert seems to have heard Rude and Alicia's conversation. He approaches Rude and tells him that he must not underestimate the gravity of the situation. Ebert explains that if the concentration around the Abellio Labyrinth is B rank, then the concentration of mana inside the labyrinth is at least A rank. In the worst-case scenario, the mana can be S rank. Alicia also adds hearing about the labyrinth's evolving stages through the reports, like a chrysalis. If this chrysalis emerges, the surface will be flooded with mana. And since Golar and Bologna are in the range, the possibility of receiving catastrophic damage is very high. Lankars motivates Rude, remarking that there have been very few labyrinth cycles, and there are many mysteries left unsolved. He reassures Rude that these are all just needless worries. Since Rude cleared the dungeon originally, Lankars says that he will be counting on him. Later, the chosen adventurers make it to the labyrinth. Outside, the gargoyles are guarding the place, just like the woman worker from the Bologna Guild reported. The gargoyles are level 50 monsters with their status concentrated on endurance. They possess multiple skills, some of which Rude already possesses. After using the appraisal, Rude is convinced that these monsters are stronger than rolling beetles. Unexpectedly, Gargoyles glances at Rude, who initially thought that the monsters wouldn't attack him because they were out of range. However, both guards charge toward Rude and his fellow adventurers. When the monsters use Petrifying Breath, Sylphide comes in clutch and erases the enemy's attack. However, it manages to get out of the attacking range and targets Alicia. Luckily, Lankar saves her from the gargoyle that was charging at her, while the other gargoyle is cut in two by the Golar Guild's guildmaster, who comes to help. The guildmasters from both regions order the adventurers to follow their lead. Rude is tempted to look at the gargoyle. He wishes to eat it, but relents when he learns that the monster has regenerative abilities. When attempting to burn the monster with its regenerative abilities, Rude's actions are questioned by the Golar Guild's guildmaster. The adventurers continue their journey inside the Abellio Labyrinth. Only a few days ago, the labyrinth had excess miasma in its atmosphere, but now the density of miasma is less, indicating that the nature of the labyrinth has changed. Rude points out that the shape and layout haven't changed that much. Alicia replies that regardless of whether there have been changes or not, they still need to be careful. They don't know what's going to happen when they get to a deeper layer. Whether the dungeon's layout changes or not, the monster's strength growth is inevitable. The adventurers are welcomed by a bunch of ugly monsters. Lankarsi chooses to fight the big one, the boss of those ugly monsters, and orders the rest to prepare to fight the tiny ones. The Golar Guild's guildmaster activates his special skill, Warrior's Honor, which allows the adventurers around him to have increased physical attack power. When the battle between humans and monsters begins, humans appear to have a bigger hand in the fight. Meanwhile, Rude discovers that Warrior's Honor didn't work on him. His abnormal status nullification skill nullified the buff. Lankar's has chosen his opponent. It's the boss of those ugly monsters. Despite being the guildmaster, Lankar's looks like an ideal tank, dealing damage whenever he gets the chance. His battle against the boss is short-spanned, as he emerges victor with just brute force. Everyone seems to be displaying incredible performance, except for Rude, who is stunned after discovering that his special skill, abnormal status nullification, also nullifies support magic. When one adventurer struggles, the rest decide to cover for them. One adventurer remarks that the monsters they are up against are hard to understand, and their weakness can't be easily found. His party members suggest they power through these monsters by force. It's the only way. Everyone gets back to work, and each of those adventurers showcases the skills they specialize in. Although the monsters appear to be stronger, the adventurers' incredible teamwork made them champs. Right after the tiny monsters are defeated, the adventurers are attacked by another monster that has been hiding underground this whole time. This monster appears to be a hybrid of regular insects like a beetle and a centipede. Once again, the adventurers' teamwork allows them to overpower this monster. Rude wasn't just spectating the impeccable teamwork from the adventurers, he was watching them obliterate monsters with their strength. He is just frustrated that he couldn't do anything at all. After this, Rude spots borrowing parasites in those ugly monsters' corpses. For a moment, Rude gains some confidence. He uses principles of earth magic to deal the necessary damage to eradicate the parasites. However, the spikes he launched at the monsters are neutralized. The parasites possess earth removal, an ability that allows them to neutralize rocks and soil. When Rude fails, the guildmaster decapitates the monster. When the dust of the fight settles down, the guildmaster of Golar points out the mistake Rude made, which is using earth magic on a monster that appeared from the ground, and calls Rude's actions foolish. The guildmaster even noticed that Rude nullified the warrior's honor. Rude knows this better than anyone that he doesn't have any experience working in a group with multiple people. Moreover, he can't even use support magic like the other adventurers. He simply thinks he's just extra baggage. When Guildmaster from Golar wasn't enough, Ebert also mocks Rude for not being able to keep up with them. Ebert says that working as a team to defeat a strong enemy should be one of the fundamentals. Abruptly, they hear an explosion. When they turn their head, they find Lankar's fighting the giant monster controlled by parasites. Lankar's notices the corpses parasitizing. Right after the transfusion, the monster's injured parts regenerated and its fighting power also increased rapidly. Golar Guild's master takes the monsters lightly until he is bitten by an insect that petrifies them. In just a few moments, everyone turns into stone statues. However, the adventurers are conscious of their surroundings despite being in a petrifying state, especially Lankar's, who is watching his imminent death. He is saved by Rude, who uses thread manipulation and pushes him backward. Rude wasn't affected by the petrification effect because of his abnormal status nullification. Moreover, he isn't alone. He managed to save Alicia by using the substitute skill on her. The monster they are up against is named Chaos Mouse, and its stats are mostly concentrated on health and strength. Among the monster's many specialties, it stands out in close combat and regeneration. Rude clocks that the monster doesn't seem to have any pesky magic resistances. He plans on rushing at the monster, but before he finds that opening, he wants Alicia to use her magic to break its stance. Alicia prepares to do what Rude tasked her with. She summons Nomia and Sylphide and makes the spirits launch special attacks, knocking the Choa's mouse. The monster transforms and grows a mouth at the place where you shouldn't have a mouth. This indicates that no matter what stance the monster may be in, it would transform. The monster once again throws tiny insects that could petrify both Rude and Alicia, but Rude uses Lightning Cloak to blow the insects away. The Choa's mouse then proceeds to fight the adventurers by engaging in direct combat. However, Alicia uses her magic to push it back. Rude makes the most out of this opportunity by utilizing his skill Flash Step and then slashing the airborne monster, though he doesn't quite hit the monster, as the monster alters its trajectory. When Rude lands, he finds himself in a pinch. The monster jumps at him from behind. In this critical moment, Lankar's jumps in and bodies the monster. Rude asks Lankar's how he broke through the petrification. He replies that he circulated the magic power inside of his body that allowed him to remove the petrification effect. Lankar's gets ready to strike, and so does Rude. Rude pours mana into his sword and effortlessly makes a clean cut, chopping the monster off in two halves. Rude discovers that he can control the amount of mana he puts into his sword. One of the monster's special skills is regeneration, and when it begins to regenerate, Rude throws venomous stingers to prevent it from regenerating. Alicia is awestruck after learning that Rude's venomous stingers are inflicting the poison faster than it can regenerate. Rude reminds Alicia that the attack he just used, he acquired it from the miasma dragon. Alicia credits Rude for saving everyone. Lankar's requests Rude reveal his secrets to everyone. Rude also thinks that he won't be able to save everyone without an explanation. Soon after, he recovers every adventurer and then shares his story. Lankarsi says that Rude's story is hard to believe, but after seeing him fighting earlier, he is convinced that Rude does possess the monster's skills. Ebert thinks Rude is wonderful. He remarks living a long life, but hasn't seen anything like this miracle. Rude reminds him of the insults that were directed at him. Despite those insults, Ebert now calls him someone suitable for Alicia. When one adventurer asks Rude if he really can eat monsters, Rude replies that he is going to demonstrate eating monsters, only if they don't mind. Rude explains that each one has to be thoroughly cooked over a low flame until the insides are completely cooked. Then he has to get rid of the smell with herbs. After this process, he can eat delicious-looking and aromatic food. The fellow adventurers are tempted to look at Rude's special mouth-watering mole crickets and gargoyles. The guildmaster of Golar's guild asks Rude if he also recovers magic power in this way. Rude corrects him, and remarks that this isn't magic. What he recovers from eating is mana. The guildmaster didn't sense any evil stench that wafted from the demons, but rather he felt divine energy coming from it. Afterward, the guildmaster from Golar suggests they should return and wait for the backup because they don't have much information about the monsters in the labyrinth. Lankar's replies that the more time passes, the further the labyrinth cycle advances. Lankar's is grateful that he has such reliable comrades like Alicia and Rude, so he plans on conquering the labyrinth without any backup. Rude informs everyone that if the typography of the dungeon hasn't changed, then they should be reaching the boss room in just a bit. However, they face another challenge. The last time Rude and Alicia came to the labyrinth, they broke through the blocked path to reach the miasma dragon. Their actions brought about the path to be covered more with debris and rocks. They completely forgot about the collapsed ceiling. Lankar's is a little disappointed. After coming to this point, he has no choice but to return. Rude recalls how the Choa's mouse made his principles of magic earth redundant, and since he has consumed some of its meat, he now possesses its original skill soil and earth removal. Rude uses that skill and makes the rocks disappear, opening the route to the boss's room. Later, the adventurers find the egg of white dragon in one of the labyrinth's rooms. Despite being a guildmaster, Lankar's has never seen one in real. He has only known about their existence from books. It's a dragon of legend that cycles between life and death. Lankar's explains that when its physical body is destroyed, its soul reincarnates and is made new by using a labyrinth as a nursery. Even after a physical body dies, the knowledge stored within its soul does not. It is also rumored to be able to understand human language. Moreover, it is said to have wisdom capable of seeing into the future. One of the adventurers says that it's just an egg in the end, and tries to break it before it hatches. Despite Lankar's warnings, the adventurer attempts to break the egg. However, before he can make it to the egg, he is hit by a tentacle that emerges from the egg. At that moment, the egg appears to have more than just one tentacle, and seems to be protecting itself. Lankar's discloses that the attack from the egg was its self-preservation instinct. He tells the adventurer who approaches the egg to stay behind because, despite its state, it's still a true dragon. In an attempt to check out the wise dragon's skill, Rude uses appraisal. However, he learns that its status is completely hidden. When one adventurer suggests they should return and wait for the reinforcements, the guildmaster from Golar says that no matter how many S-classes they have, they can't stop it. Nevertheless, Lankar's is planning to prevent it from hatching. He needs support in killing the monster. While everyone aims for the egg's legs, Lankar's flanks and cuts off its limb. But the eggs grow back the limb in just a few seconds, leaving everyone in shock. Since Lankar's attacks aren't effective, he asks Rude for a favor and tells him something while the dragon inside the egg roars. When everyone is covering their ears, Lankar's charges at the monster and cuts off one of its limbs. When he tries to climb up the egg, he is caught by a tentacle that comes out from the ground. In a desperate situation, when Lankar's is about to give in to the dragon, Ebert and Golar Guild's guildmaster cover him. Lankar's quickly recovers and goes for an all-out attack, severely injuring the egg. After this, Rude goes for the finishing move. He easily cuts through the egg with his mana-infused sword. Despite Rude's best efforts, the main body of the wise dragon is unharmed. Only the exterior covering it was cut in half. Alicia commands Sylphide to use the opening to finish off the enemy. However, the egg closes before Sylphide's magic makes contact. The guildmaster from Golar thinks that they can't get anywhere if the wise dragon keeps on regenerating. The circumstances unexpectedly shift from the adventurers having an upper hand to being at a disadvantage. The wise dragon emits aura that sends chills down our adventurer's spine. They notice that the egg is starting to look strange. Alicia concludes that the egg is hatching. Lankar's shouts that they don't have any more time. They need to end this in just one powerful blow. The opponent's regenerative powers are a threat, but its legs aren't very durable. Lankars issues the order that everyone will attack together and create a small gap. The guildmaster from Golar secures the far right position, while Ebert and the adventurer with Wolverine-like claws take the far left area. The remaining two adventurers decide to focus on the enemies in front, and Rude and Alicia choose to take the ones on the left in front of them. Soon, everyone begins running toward the egg. When the monster goes into a quill state, it throws spikes at the adventurers. Luckily, one of the adventurers seems to be adept at using magic barrier. She protects her comrades with her special skill. She tells Lankars that she would be protecting him, he just needs to focus on attacking. Lankars puts his skill charge at work. By bolstering his magic, his next attack skill will have double the power. Although Lankarsi has activated charge, Alicia wonders how are they going to time-breaking legs. Rude tells her that he would handle that, and then activates Command, the skill that he acquired from the General Lizard. With the Command skill, he can speak to everyone through telepathy. He tells everyone that they will be breaking the reincarnating dragon's legs together once the countdown ends. When the countdown ends, every group cuts the egg's legs. The egg falls to the ground, which allows Lankars to strike it with his charge skill. The adventurers' impeccable teamwork allows them to beat the wise dragon. After using most of his magic power, Lankars weakens and is about to collapse. The guildmaster from Golar admits that defeating the dragon wise without everyone's help would have been impossible. When the safety of every adventurer is confirmed, they celebrate defeating the wise dragon. The adventurer who joined forces with Ebert to break the monster's leg in composure decides to recover the wise dragon's magic stones and make a big profit. Normally, every dead monster drops magic stones when they die, but the adventurer doesn't find anything. Just as he realizes that there aren't any magic stones anywhere, he is attacked by the failed reincarnation of the wise dragon. The monster can speak human language, and it discloses that the body it is in won't last very long, and it has to wait for the next reincarnation. But before that, he targets the adventurers who disturbed his reincarnation. The guildmaster from Golar feels the chilling aura oozing from the monster. As he informs everyone about the presence of the monster, wise dragon Orphis gets closer to the adventurers. Every adventurer who was a part of the subjugation mission is stunned to see the new yet improper manifestation of the wise dragon. Even more, surprise is added to the mix when Orphis enunciates the words from human language. Lankars explains that among the dragonkin, the true dragon who stands at the highest rank are beings closest to the gods, capable of understanding human languages. The monster tries communicating with the adventurers, and the first thing it speaks up about is sensing a detestable impurity among the adventurers. Whoever they are, they resemble humans, yet are like monsters. He then tells the adventurers to entertain him by trembling in fear. The adventurer girl who covered for Lankars earlier is using the dark envelopment skill, which allows her to conceal her form completely. Abruptly, the monster starts to crumble, signifying that it's rotting away. Lankars tells everyone to attack while they still can, because they won't find another good chance like this one. However, not all adventurers have as much energy as they had before this subjugation mission. The adventurer, who was first to strike the egg, attempts to evade the monster's attacking range. However, the monster blocks the way outside using telekinesis, and says that even with just one hand, a mere rat extermination wouldn't be hindered. Lankars, being the esteemed guildmaster, responds in a way he normally does. The adventurers together jump at Orphis, but it doesn't take them a long time to realize that their attacks aren't landing. They deduce that their attacks are being read by the monster. Orphis isn't satisfied with the levels at which the adventurers are fighting, he demands that they entertain him some more. When they attempt to approach the monster, it flings them back. Alicia comes to check on Rude, but he reassures her that he is fine, though he has used up almost all of his mana in the previous fight. Seeing everyone struggling, Alicia decides to finish the monster in one go with her special move, Quintet of Spirits. She demands Rude relay the message to everyone. Through telepathy, Alicia informs everyone about the big move she is going to unleash. She wants them to coordinate and dodge when the time comes. But more than anything, she wants them to lend their strength. After charging her magical power, Alicia asks everyone to move out of the way. The adventurers promptly move away and open the path for Alicia to strike with Quintet of Spirits. Despite Alicia's best efforts, her attack fails, and the monster once again gets back on its feet. Orphis admits being careless and again attempts to retaliate. Before long, he also takes down Lankars with his tail. The adventurers begin to make reckless decisions while fighting the monster. This signals that they are fatigued after the recent clash with Wise Dragon. Even the prideful elf, Ebert, begins to attack with predictable moves, but his attacks are also cancelled out by the monsters with ease. Ebert was sure that he had taken the blind spot. However, regardless of any advances, he is thrown in the pit. Orphis calls the adventurers' attacks unpleasant. Witnessing her companions at the brink of death reminds Alicia of the post-traumatic stress disorder that she experienced when she lost her friends. She fears it might happen again, but is unable to take action. Alicia blames herself for being powerless. The monster tells her that it is going to slaughter her and make her nourishment for his wisdom. Rude realizes that they can't defeat the monster, and escaping is the only option left. He thinks that they can get away if they buy some time and make it to the escape magic circle at the labyrinth's core. When attempting to activate thread manipulation, he clocks that his skill isn't activating because of mana depletion. He is sure that if he doesn't recover his mana, they all are going to be wiped out. Currently targeting Alicia, the monster exhales the dragon breath, which Alicia counters with the help of Sylphide. To assist Alicia, the Guildmaster of Golar also uses the flying blade, but the monster blocks it with a magic process. In response, the monster throws water bullets. The adventurers are annoyed at the variety of the skills the monster is using. However, the monster's skill display doesn't end there. He charges Lancars's Void Strike, shocking everyone. The Guildmaster of Golar notifies everyone that the monster is defenseless. After all, it is occupied with charging the attack and remarks that they should attack now because it is time. Alicia summons Urdiel and Wakyan to cover for her comrades. She uses her magic to add the buff, Water Lightning, to the Guildmaster's blade. The Guildmaster of Golar then rushes to take the monster down by any means possible. However, he realizes that he was outsmarted by the monster, but it is already too late. He can't alter his trajectory. Orphis impales the Golar Guild's Guildmaster. Alicia's spirit Urdiel attempts to attack the monster, but her attack also falls flat, and she then gets herself eaten. Alicia is devastated after losing her precious spirit Urdiel. Traditionally, charging techniques are used against opponents stronger than yourself. In exchange for creating an opening, you unleash immense power. Orphis asks Alicia if she wants an explanation on why it used such a powerful attack against mere rats. The monster then explains that it used that charged attack to see the despair twist on the adventurers' faces. Orphis leans forward, aiming to taste the flavor of an elf. At the perfect time, Rude crashes into Orphis, saving Alicia, even if it's for a short moment. Rude's surprise attack appeared to be effective, as he was able to leave a grave injury on the monster's face, popping out its eyeball. After tasting Rude's surprise brutish attack, Orphis learns that Rude has consumed his eggshell and turned into a monster. Rude isn't in control of his body, though he is conscious and understands everything that is happening around him. An enormous amount of mana is circulating through his body, and he can't control it. When he loses it, he quickly moves Alicia out of the way. Orphis is intrigued to see Rude not turning into a monster despite absorbing an enormous amount of mana. Nonetheless, he also remarks that Rude is not worthy of his time. With every second passing, Rude's body is burning hot. He feels like losing himself and can't hold on any longer. The Adventurer Girl, a member of Lancars's subjugation team, tells Rude that his mana control is sloppy and helps him by placing her hand on his back and using an incantationless spell. After the help of the girl, Rude starts to feel mana harmonizing within his body. The girl then does another favor and hands him his sword. She asks Rude to exterminate the half-dead lizard. The girl's insults angers the monster, and it charges at the Rude, intending to kill him. However, at last, Rude cuts the monster in two halves with just one hit. Rude rushes to check on his friends and treat their injuries. He tries using thread control to close in the deep wounds, but nothing works. The girl tells him that everyone except for the two of them is seriously injured, so if they don't treat them quickly, it will be hard to carry this many people and escape. She asks Rude if they should wait for the backup or carry them one by one to the town. Rude's body is also nearing its limit. The girl forcibly controlled Rude's mana to temporarily strengthen him. In the state of Agonal, the monster enunciates that it would not let them return unharmed, and will take them with him. The labyrinth begins to collapse, signifying that the Orphis was acting as a substitute for the labyrinth's core. The girl shouts that they need to get out of there before they are crushed. However, Rude is driven by instincts and rushes to the unconscious Alicia to save her. The loud crashing sounds of rocks wake Alicia up. She opens her eyes and learns from Rude that he has defeated the Wisdom Dragon, and they now need to escape the labyrinth. Alicia reveals that she is out of mana and can't move. She tells Rude to leave without her. Rude isn't able to fully comprehend her words. He believes that her mana ran out because of him, and he made her use it in extremes. The other girl from earlier says that they should hurry and escape before it's too late, because if they don't, they would also be buried alive. Rude replies that he just can't run away and leave his friends behind. The girl leaves as she says that she respects him, but doesn't trust his decisions. Rude understands the gravity of the situation he is in. At one point, he thinks of escaping the labyrinth with Alicia, but quickly drops the idea because he can't abandon his friends. Frustrated, he tries to think of a way that will guarantee everyone's safety. While he is thinking, Alicia tells him to run, because that's what her comrades wished for. A weakened Lancars also tells Rude to leave, because being an adventurer means there will be many chances to lose comrades. He quotes that if those who can survive don't live, what can those who die boast about? Ebert informs Rude about the monsters gathering in the labyrinth. The monsters are about to jump at the adventurers, but Rude says that he isn't going to let anyone die. Alicia insists Rude leaves, but he refuses to step back. He expresses his frustration over always being a loser who is unable to help anyone. He was called the miasma scavenger and looked down on until now, and he was really happy when Alicia accepted his secret and wanted him to join her team. He was also happy when the guild accepted him as an adventurer. He makes a statement that he isn't going to abandon the comrades who trusted and acknowledged him. The adrenaline rush makes him recall the words that the hero who saved his village told him. These words are still engraved on our adventurer's heart. The hero told him to never give up, no matter how hard it gets. After making a statement, Rude begins fighting for his and his friend's life. However, he begins to notice the overwhelming number of monsters. When a monster gets in close combat range, Rude attempts to dodge its attack, but gets injured in the process. One of the ugly monsters that appeared before bites his arm and puts him in a helpless condition. Rude uses a special skill called Self-Cut, which allows him to amputate his arm. Rude's catalog of special skills doesn't end there. He activates the regeneration skill and regenerates his arm. After this, he runs at the monster and impales it with Graham, his cursed blade. While the blade is in the monster's stomach, he enables Wrapped Lightning, hoping to see the monster fall. However, the horde of monsters remains unscathed, and the monster that absorbed all of the Wrapped Lightning attack retaliates. Rude is yeeted back, but is caught by an unknown person, not knowing that this person is the hero who saved him and his village. The hero tells Rude that he did well and should not worry about anything.